Spike TV has just become Serengeti television. Your grasp of the obvious is amazing. The quantity of speech is not always indicative of the quality of thought. Triton, have you conquered the great alpha male yet?
What's the capital of Thailand?
Why don't you indulge me with your geography, big guy? Indulge me, let me know, tell me.
Bangkok.
What a shot! Who are you, a stalker? Every time I start talking, you start busting my interviews.
Stalking you? Always. You will feel the power. Period.
Welcome everybody to You've Got to Be Kidding Me. This is a TNA history podcast where we watch TNA 1 month at a time. On this episode, we were talking about the month that is September 2006, leading up to No Surrender 2006. I am Garrett Kidney, and I'm joined, as always, by Liam Jones.
Wake me up when this September ends.
That's a song?
Is what I was feeling watching this month of TNA history.
Is it just because there was 6 episodes of Impact?
That doesn't help.
You don't really feel the benefit of more episodes? You're not, like, really invested in the stories because they had more time to tell them?
You know, I don't feel the benefit of more episodes. Hey, when I talk, like, right here in my mic, it's really deep.
Mm.
Can you hear the difference?
No.
So, like, if I'm going from here and then
I move around to this side.
No, same the whole way around.
Really?
Yeah.
To me, like...
down here, I sound like guy with a deep voice. Couldn't think of a specific reference.
Loki.
I don't want to compare myself.
No, we were scrolling Loki's Twitter right before we started, and I think you would love to compare yourself to that man.
I would like to go and say that I fundamentally disagree with the beliefs of one Loki.
The man who believes every conspiracy theory is real. Go to his Twitter. Every single one of them.
Garrett, however, co-signs all of his tweets.
I also believe every conspiracy theory is real. Moon landing? Fake. Bigfoot?
True, though.
Real.
True, though.
Climate change? An agenda pushed by the libs to sell electric cars.
And turn our kids gay.
With the electric cars?
What else are they doing?
Yeah, you're not using oil, which is manly.
Yeah, oil's the straightest shit I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, electricity is queer.
I've been saying this for years.
What's going on with you?
I've been a movie boy.
Oh, I saw you've been watching Paddington, so let's start there.
I have watched Paddington 1 and Paddington 2.
In anticipation of Paddington 3?
Yes, when he goes back to deepest Peru.
Because, like, Paddington 1 is a nice, enjoyable romp, and then Paddington 2 is, like, the best movie of all time.
Paddington 1's, like, they kind of have to get through the whole Paddington of it and be like, why is he here? But once they, like, get through that bullshit, like, Paddington 2 can just thrive.
Paddington 2 is, like, it's one of my favorite movies. It is a 5-star movie to me.
I went 4.5.
Cowardice. Because I watched it for the first time. I watched it after midnight on New Year's Day one year. I'm like, the first thing I'm doing in my year, this year, is watching Paddington 2.
Gotta start it off right.
Start off on a note that makes me feel something, and then 2 hours later I was bawling my eyes out at the scene at the very end.
Yeah, I started to go...
When that fucking door opens, and Paddington's like, ah! I'm like, ah!
Also, just everyone's in these movies.
It's kind of like, it has that Harry Potter effect of, like, every British actor is in Paddington 2.
It was also, like, it was very, like, Grand Budapest. Like, especially the prison scenes.
Yeah, they are very wacky, very off-kilter, very not what you would expect from...
Just, like, Brighton, Wes Anderson-y, like it came straight out of a toy box.
Yeah, because, like, when you think of Paddington, you would think that there's still, like, you know, it's a very thoughtless, boring, shitty ass, you know? Not that Paddington's bad, but, you know, when we think of people adapting children's things...
Like, even the first movie was, like, kind of like Bill Murray Garfield. But, like, the second one that is, like, what if we do art house?
Yeah, what if we did, like, imaginative crazy shit with Brendan
Yeah.
Gleeson?
He's great in it, too.
He's really good.
Paddington 3 should be, like, a noir.
Well, it's out, so it's not.
Shit.
But...
Paddington 4 should be a noir.
Yeah, there you go. Paddington solving crimes.
The Maltese Bear.
Paddington hitting on, like, hard times and having to start a detective agency to get his marmalade.
Exactly.
No one's gonna feed it to him because the family is dead.
I like how much the sun aged between movie 1 and 2, because I watched them night after night.
You're like, wait a minute.
I was like, this kid has aged 7 years in 2 weeks.
And they're basically adults by Paddington 3.
That's amazing.
Which I haven't seen yet. It is out at the moment here. I know the release is staggered. I don't think it's out until 2025 in the US. I'm not sure about Australia. But I have to go see it.
In the decade of our Lord, the 2020s, we're still doing staggered releases.
It's kind of crazy, alright, isn't it? Anytime, especially when like a big movie does it. It's like Paddington.
I feel like Marvel just like stopped that shit from happening in my brain for a while.
And even like it was very weird when Pixar still did it. When like Toy Story 4 or Toy Story 3, I think. Like Toy Story 3 here came out like 4 months after somewhere else. It's like Toy Story isn't coming out everywhere.
I also got sick of it because I got really used to Australia getting everything the day before America. Because they would release them all on the same date. But like they didn't convert it. So like all the Marvel stuff was coming out like a day before. And I got really used to that idea. And then like, I forgot what it was. There was something that I was like, how is this shit still not out? It came out like 4 months after everything else.
Yeah, discriminating against you because they hate you.
It's true.
Anything else you want to talk about that you were watching?
I watched some stuff.
Mm-hmm. The pause that you're hearing is Liam opening his letterbox.
No, I already opened it. I was trying to think of like stuff outside of movies. I watched Moonlight, Hidden Figures, Green Book, No Hard Feelings, Groundhog Day.
Which is the best? Which is the worst?
Best is Moonlight. Worst, No Hard Feelings gone out. Which is still like fun. It's just like, I really appreciate Jennifer Lawrence. I think she's very talented.
Sorry, more than non-movies you want to talk about?
I don't know. Arcane, still the prettiest show that's ever existed. And damn well it should be for that fucking price.
$250 million for 2 seasons.
No wonder they're not doing a third one.
Who has that money? Is that Riot's money or is it Netflix's money?
I have to guess it's Riot's money.
And they're just like, let's just blow it. Let's just do it. Let's just spend it all.
I guess it's probably like a dual deal with Riot and Netflix, right?
Yeah, but like those kind of production costs, like that's borderline Game of Thrones money for Arcane, which is insane.
Production companies is 40G. That's the French animation studio that did it.
Shout out to them getting paid. Yeah, I guess the folks at Riot are just like, let's bankroll it. I guess it probably worked. It's probably already paid off, honestly. But
yeah, well, I remember like some of the events they did for like to promote it when the first season came out were like crazy interactive like escape room like role play events. So like they've really heavily promoted it, obviously. But yeah, apparently they want to do it. They want to keep making stuff, just like they're wrapping up with this particular story.
So they'll do
League of Legends has like 120 fucking heroes or something. I'm sure they have other things that they can play off.
How much established lore does League have?
You're asking the wrong person.
Because I was thinking about that. It's like, how much of this is like new stuff that's all new to these characters, and how much of it is like, all of this was actually written in blurbs that were released alongside these characters 15 years ago?
League heads, get in the comments.
Is League like Dark Souls, where everything is done through item descriptions?
I think they have animatics.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure.
I've never been a League guy. I was a brief League esports guy, but obviously they're not like, here's the story of League while they're in the middle of an esports game.
They should.
They should dump lore.
Also, one thing I will never appreciate, and I will fight to the death, is replacing the game voice actors with like name actors. Fuck off, just have the voice actors let them play their fucking roles.
Yeah, but then they can't have big names attached to it.
No one cares if fucking Haley Steinfeld is voicing one of them, you know what I mean?
But you can send Haley Steinfeld on a media tour, and then she can do media.
Who gives a shit? Just fucking give it to the goddamn actors.
No one knows who any of these voice actors are. No one's gonna want to talk to them.
No one knows who half of the fucking actors are in the show anyway.
But do you like it?
No matter what I think of the story or anything involved, it is the prettiest fucking show I've ever seen in my goddamn life.
Yeah, there is like especially when you play like a very high-end video game or watch something like that where like
Dragon Age Vanguard.
Yeah, I was going to use Call of Duty, but Dragon Age works too. Like a really high, big budget, well-made AAA game rather than the badly made AAA games you get now. When where you get the money on screen, where like you can see the money on screen. There is a certain something satisfying about that.
Yeah, I mean, like, and it's very creative and like it's interesting. It's just so damn pretty though. Like, it's funny. It could have like a great story. Like, I think it has a good story. It could have like a great story, and I think I'd still be like, but look how pretty it is.
Yeah. All I've been doing is watching Critical Role.
And I already know all your thoughts and opinions.
That's true. I've sent you 2 1,000-word pieces about Critical Role.
I want you to never mention it on Twitter or on or on Link to the Cast until you've completed it, and you're like, all right, guys, I have 200 hours worth of opinions to talk about.
It'll just be an entire episode. That will be the episode we'll finally invite you on, so I can just dump.
Actually, it'll be
200 hours.
1,000 hours of opinions.
Just every thought I have about Critical Role. I've posted occasional screenshots just for gags. So that's the only hint to the world that I've watched. I've watched 52 episodes, of which are 4 hours. 200 plus hours of Critical Role at the moment. So that's basically what I've been doing for 2 weeks. I haven't done anything else. I saw Hamilton yesterday.
Talk about Hamilton to the people.
U.S. politics go crazy.
It's true. You think in like 100 years we'll be getting like the Trump Kamala Harris rap musical?
Yeah, Lin-Manuel Miranda's like great grandchild will write. No, you see, you can't write it about Trump because Trump is the president. He has to write it about like Rudy Giuliani.
Please do it. I need the Rudy Giuliani rap musical.
Yeah, Rudy Giuliani.
My name is Rudy Giuliani.
See, it works. It works. The rhyming structure. You can't say Donald Trump. You have to stretch the syllables for that one. But yeah, it's so funny just to be like the losing presidential candidate and the former like the head of the Treasury had a fucking duel in which one of them was killed.
We need to bring back that.
As I was walking out, the man behind me, I was telling you this, was like, I didn't get it. Why did he die twice in a duel? And the person had to be like, that was his kid the first time. I was like, what? He was very confused. It's really good. Listen, it's become like Lin-Manuel Miranda has become a meme, and like his
because
style.
Also like everything since then has been the exact same sound.
Yeah, like he has a style and he beats it into the ground.
And he's a WWE fan. Boo!
Yeah, this man has never stated a preference for TNA, so we don't respect him. But Hamilton is undeniable. It's just undeniable as this like force of music. It's really good.
It is maybe the most 2012 thing that has ever existed.
Even though it didn't come out in 2012?
Yeah. When did it first come out?
I think it was like 15, 16, I think, wasn't it? I guess he would have been probably writing it in 2012.
Okay, well, like, shut up. Shut the fuck up. 2015.
Yeah.
Okay, it actually is, it might even be more 2015. It is the most early 2010s thing to ever exist.
It is contemporaneous with Lucha Underground.
Okay, it is the most Obama era shit to ever exist.
It is kind of funny how, like, Hamilton came out and then the Trump years.
I had to do the math of when Obama was still president.
Yeah, he was president until start 2017?
It's so funny, like, there is this, like, a whole genre of media that I grew up on that is, like, I look back on now and I'm like, it is very much the Obama era.
Yeah, you watch, like, Parks and Recreation. It's like, show couldn't exist outside of the Obama era.
Like Simon gave me the greatest quote ever, which is like, New Girl is the most Obama era show ever, and it accidentally went over into the Trump era and it ruined it.
It's like the cynicism of the Trump era does not match with the New Girl of it all.
Yeah, and so it's like, now that I look at it, it's like, there's just so many things that are like, maybe I just have nostalgia for when I was 14.
There's always a little bit of that.
But like, I give me back to the I don't know how you describe it, the white toast era. Just plain and simple. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do think, like, legitimately, Trump has changed the mood of the world.
Oh, 100, like, you saw it immediately when he got in.
And not just in the form of like politics or the way we feel, but it has
No,
influenced
the general
kind of art
state of
we're
the
making.
world. Yeah, 100%. Of course it does.
Which is the way, like, for all the things you can say about Trump, and you can say many, and all of them are true. You can. The thing I'm just sick of is like, we're gonna have 15 fucking years by the time this guy is out of office of one man being the main character of planet Earth.
Yeah.
15 years of just every day that one dude constantly. I'm so tired.
I think I'm
of
just
it.
gonna like become a recluse.
I like legitimately. I'm like, listen. It's a position of privilege that I can do it. Don't attack me for my white Irish privilege that I can just tune out the Donald Trump of it all. But like, that was my main response. And like,
He's gonna be
after
the
it.
rest of my 20s.
And I'm just like, no, I can't do every day. Here's the bad thing Donald Trump is doing. I can't do that for 4 more years. So I'm just going to tune it out. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, America. I'm sorry to my friends in America who are going to be fucked by this. I'm so sorry, but I just can't do it for 4 more years.
So it's just really dawned on me that the last years of my 20s are going to be dominated by this man's existence.
I'm just like, every day you have to hear about this man. I shouldn't have to hear about any man every day, not even myself. I don't want to hear about myself every day, and I have to do that. I have to put up with that. But Trump? Ugh.
The only man I want to hear about every day is Kurt Angle.
That is a smooth pivot that we will get to after we do the Patreon plugs.
Shit. And Blue Sky and merch.
You can go to patreon.com/kiddingme or tnachat.com where you can subscribe and you can get loads more content. We have over 150 pieces of exclusive audio.
Wow.
Watch-alongs of every 3-hour pay-per-view we've
Whoa.
covered so far. Watch-alongs of a bunch of the 2-hour weekly pay-per-views. Watch-alongs of a WrestleMania at one point. We've reviewed a Chris Rock movie. We've reviewed a Randy Savage album. We have multiple
Go
sub-series. We have a series about Lucha Underground ongoing. We're Gift of the Pods, where we're talking all about the wacky adventures of Lucha Underground. We have an ongoing series about New Japan Pro Wrestling from 10 years ago, where we're talking about
Carl
like the
Urban.
Rainmaker shock onwards. So that's Rain Takers. We also have a bunch of old series covering Global Force Wrestling, Ring Ka King, covering the Monday Night Wars, covering Pro Wrestling
Abyss.
Gorilla from 2012, covering Wrestling Society X. All of that sitting there. Patreon.com/kiddingme or tnachat.com. So support the show and you get a ton more of us. More us than maybe anybody should ever want. If you would like to support the show more and get something tangible, Liam, something physical.
Something you can hold in your hands. Something that you can sleep with and imagine that we were there with you.
You can head to the links in all of our descriptions or bios or wherever the fuck you're listening to this, where you can see the link to our merch. There you can get t-shirts, you can
Get
get
it
show
now
posters.
before tariffs make you pay more for it from our drop shipping empire.
That's actually the excuse when we hike the prices like 40%. It's like, Donald Trump's tariffs are hitting us really hard, guys.
So get in quick.
You can get show posters, including this month's LAX show poster, which is fucking awesome. So all of that is at the links in our bio. If you are a patron, you can get a 10% discount on merch. We have a pinned post on Patreon that has the link as well as
That's almost the pre-tariff price.
as well as a promo code that you can use to save 10%. And as we said last time, if you'd like to do a little hack, if you subscribe at the $1 tier on Patreon and then you buy something in the merch shop, you will save more than $1. So you will actually be taking money from us, really, when you think about it.
And I'll find you and I'll kill you.
Liam will hunt you down, compliment your shirt, and then kick you in the balls.
Or any groin, to be honest.
That's true.
I don't want to specify.
Woke Liam Jones will kick anybody in
Yeah.
any groin.
Exactly, that's my wokeism at work.
So, yeah, we have launched Blue Skies for individuals. I guess we should probably launch one for the podcast, too.
We should get that before someone takes it. Can we make it so that our at Blue Sky thing is at tnachad.com? I don't know how to do it, but I want it.
I will look into it, but I will probably get confused and give up.
Ask Warren, apparently he knows.
But yeah, we're on Blue Sky too, as we're on the Twitter migration. I'm not one of those people who are like, I'm abandoning Twitter, because I'm not stupid and crazy. I'm not in denial that much, but
I'll jump fully when Rovert jumps.
yeah, when Robert moves, by all accounts, he will be the last one to move.
And allegedly, by the way, he's signed up. I don't know if it's actually him, but if that man followed me on Blue Sky, but not in the decade-long time period in which I have had interactions with him on X the Everything app,
Yep.
I'm fucking pissed. That's happened a couple of times. Don't think I've noticed this. People of Blue Sky. There are a couple of people on this Blue Sky application that have followed me there that never followed me on X the Everything app.
That would tell me that they just don't realize they don't follow you on X the Everything app.
But, like, what am I supposed to do with that information, Garrett? It says the message will go, hey, you don't follow me on X the Everything app.
Rover's a listener.
Yeah. And this is how I choose to broach the subject.
You're calling Rover out on a podcast?
First of all, I would never call Rover out again. I don't want that smoke.
Yeah.
At first it was Jack the Jobber, now it's Rover.
Which, very important, we do bring us back. We are fully at peace with Jack the Jobber.
Well, actually, I would like to mention that although he followed me on Twitter, he hasn't followed me on Blue Sky. And neither has Matthew. So...
Starting more fights. We're at peace with Cultaholic. They even plugged the show.
That's okay. Our next series will be What Culture Watch Along.
Just to spite them.
Is that spite?
Yeah?
I don't think it is spite.
Well, it's their rival organization.
Oh shit, they're not What Culture anymore, are they?
No, Cultaholic and What Culture are very distinct different things for reasons.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
The reasonable middle ground is we'll watch Defiant Wrestling.
Is that still a thing?
No, but it was like the post What Culture Pro Wrestling name.
Yeah, well, watch Defiant, not What Culture. Boo.
Which I only remember that because I got a YouTube recommendation for Will Ospreay versus Walter in Defiant the other day.
We'll watch Defy Wrestling from Seattle.
Yeah, I think that's the peaceful middle ground where everyone can get along and thrive.
That's what we'll watch. WWE ID competitors versus AEW Futures competitors.
It will be the best wrestling you've ever seen in your life.
What is Defy's slogan?
Defy. Just said with a different
Actually,
tone,
I think
though.
it kind of is, because isn't there like chat like Defy?
Defy. Their company is Defy, but their slogan is Defy. Gotta put some stank on it.
Kenta is still the Defy champion?
Kenta's champion of like 7 different indies.
Cool.
It's very weird to see Kenta being like the top star of the 2024 US indies.
Oh, because he's cool.
He is still cool. He is still Kenta.
Oh, yeah.
Literally, like his name is still Kenta.
Yeah. Like it's still he still has it all in capitals.
Yep. When you say Kenta, your brain still goes to good Kenta, no matter what happens. Which fair play to him.
Like that's a legacy, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, Blue Sky. Oh, my Blue Sky is Dixie Carter, not the Gleet Muda, just so you know.
Yeah, which will make plugging it very annoying at the end of the show because I have to say 2 different things.
Yeah, I'll change it eventually.
When you get all the you trick all the TNA wrestlers into following Dixie Carter.
When she pays me.
This is your way to just get James Storm to interact with you.
I just want like $600.
That's a decent, reasonable fee to give it over.
USD.
That's like 7 million Australian dollars.
Exactly. I'm set for life. Oh, no, actually, the people need to know. I had TNA Wrestling.Blue Sky
Yeah.
and was strongholded. I was forced to give it up.
Yeah, because you took it last year, and there was a certain thing happening that might make the TNA Wrestling Blue Sky a little more relevant.
Well, I didn't know that.
I had the Impact Wrestling Blue Sky.
I just thought it would be on brand for us.
Didn't think there was... Well, I did at the time. I knew there was... when Blue Sky was becoming a thing, when I was holding handles, I was like, I should probably get a Blue Sky handle. And I was like, Liam, give it up.
It's bullshit. I should have been able to keep it. And then I should have made them pay for it.
I'll send you $15.
Alright.
I'll actually do that.
Cool.
Pay you all $15 for the TNA handle. That brings us to the news, starting with one of the bigger stories in TNA history. TNA signed Kurt Angle.
So, this Kurt Angle guy.
Kurt Angle in 2006, in particular.
Yeah, by all accounts,
Yes.
before this had happened, Kurt Angle not exactly in the best place.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in more detail, but there is a reason he left WWE.
And left is a curious term.
Yeah, was kind of fired, kind of left, kind of mostly fired. I don't know.
But I guess, so I imagine your first Kurt memory was this in TNA. Like your first TNA Kurt memory. You were like watching at the time.
I wasn't. Kurt was arguably my Roode in between the best of the, because like I started watching right after this. So like I started watching TNA regularly in November 2006. So the first show I actually watched that I remember sitting as like watching Impact Weekly was Kurt's first match. It was the Abyss match on TV. So Kurt is like my defining Kurt memory is right after this, with him coming. Obviously I would have watched Kurt in the World Wrestling Federation, so it's not like my first introduction to Kurt in general. But yeah, it's interesting, like we are hitting the period where I started watching TNA on a weekly basis.
Well, let me tell you whose first knowledge to Kurt Angle was TNA.
Was it actually?
The first time I'd ever seen Kurt Angle wrestle like live on TV was TNA.
I guess, yeah, you would have been just a little too young to see him in WWE, wouldn't you?
I had seen him on DVDs.
Yeah.
But he was not on WWE TV when I was watching WWE TV.
That's, yeah, he's a TNA guy to you then.
Yeah, he is.
Honestly, he is kind of a TNA guy.
He is. Well, wasn't he there longer?
I think with the second run, it might have tipped it back in favor of WWE.
Boo. So 2 years versus 8 years the first run. And then... how long was he there the second run?
Yeah, TNA was, what, just 9.5 years?
Yeah. And then he went back to WWE for 1 year. I think he's still technically a TNA guy, if you don't count like sporadic appearances since then.
TNA.
Technically, as a full-time pro wrestler / on-screen character, I think he was in TNA longer.
So were you more in, like, what did you feel when you first started watching Kurt in TNA? I
was like, I know this guy from my WWE DVDs.
Nice.
I always thought he was a really good character. It was always his character work that I enjoyed because I was a kid and wrestling was dumb, but hit the music.
The thing with Kurt, where like he has like the again, like all people, the reputation of being a wrestler, and he is so much more than that. He is such a well-rounded performer.
Kurt was also like the thing I tried to use to get people to watch TNA in like grade
that's
3.
fun.
I was like, you know, Kurt's there now.
And did that work?
You know what's funny? Though I had a conversation with one of my friends, and he ended up giving me one of my other friends ended up giving me all of his brother's wrestling DVDs, which was great. But my other friend, we made a trade, and I gave him my 3-disc Best of DX, and he gave me bloodiest ECW matches, which is already a win, and the 3-disc RVD set.
You won out on that. You fleeced that person.
I fleeced that one. But I remember like being like, oh, you know, because this is when I first started watching TNA. Famously, my first TNA moment, The Abyss, Stevie Richards' Raven segment.
The Fireball.
And I was like trying to like sell people on TNA, like, oh, have you guys ever watched this? I know like wrestling was still like a thing that was cool to talk about because I was 12 or whatever. Then I had to hide it for a decade. And they were like, you know, I tried to watch TNA. It's too much talking.
Really?
Too much talking was their takeaway.
Which I guess is probably true because it was like Russo's TNA at that point. But also, it's very true of WWE at that point too. Yeah. So like, I don't know. I don't know.
I guess like just it's more forgiving, I guess.
Because when I was in like when I was like this period when I was starting to watch TNA, I would have been in secondary school. I would have been in my teens. I would have been like 14. So most of my friends had nearly all of my friends. I didn't have many friends that stayed wrestling fans in their teens. I had a decent few who were wrestling fans when they were kids. So only one person that I ever like come close to converting to TNA. With shout out Jack Casey, who I gave a bunch of TNA DVDs to. I'm not sure if he watched them, but he eventually returned them. So he at least had the interest to take some DVDs off me once. But that's the closest I ever got to like convincing somebody to watch TNA in my childhood.
Yeah, there was like 1 year where wrestling was cool to talk about.
Which year?
I think it was grade 3, so when I was 11. So do the math, like 2009, I guess.
Yeah, Jeff Hardy. Was it just because of Jeff Hardy?
Mate, I know because like Batista and Cena and Triple H were the fan favorites of the era for people.
And I guess that is like the first period of like the PG era, so it makes sense that suddenly that exploded into like 11-year-olds.
Yeah. And then I also had the famous like debate where like I was a kid that would like often back down in like in conversations and be like, well, I guess I'm wrong. But there's one time my friend was convinced that Kurt Angle's name was Kurt Angle.
What?
Like K-U-R Tangle.
No.
And I fought to the death over this. I was like, his name is not Kurt Tangle, you dumb fuck.
Kurt Tangle.
Mm.
Good lord.
And he's like, yeah, because he tangles him up. I remember this conversation vividly from when I was 10.
Did you win?
I mean, of course I was right.
Maybe that guy's right. Maybe that, like the Berenstein Bears thing, where in his world it was Kurt Angle.
It's not Kurt Angle. But you know what? When he said, it's like it's the tangle lock. I was like, that actually does kind of make sense.
Because he tangles his ankle.
He tangles him up.
I remember growing up, my dad didn't believe Kurt Angle was actually an Olympic gold medalist.
He's like, it's a gimmick.
Yeah, he's like, that wrestling shit's fake. He's not an Olympic gold medalist. So we found like an encyclopedia that had like the Olympic winners. It went back to 1996. I was like, he's right there. He's actually an Olympic gold medalist.
Did he concede it?
He did. And that was back in the day when you couldn't just fucking Wikipedia it. You had to find a source for that shit. You couldn't just be like, look, the internet says it's true. You had to be like, I opened a CD-ROM encyclopedia that had the Olympic results on it, and I showed it to my dad to prove I was right.
Do you remember like parent faves?
Not really. Like because my dad he went to like a kind of a world of sports show once. He told me about this randomly. It's like, oh, I went to like a show that came to Cork, and like it had like Big Daddy on it. So like he see like a show.
This is almost bar for bar the exact same as my grandfather being like, oh yeah, I went to a show in Mildura once and Andre was on it.
So he wasn't much of a fan. Like he would do a bit where every time we would be watching it, he would walk past the room and just call it rubbish and move on.
My grandfather did the same thing, but then like famously, my grandmother would sell him out and tell me about how like when I wasn't there, he'd watch like Raw, and like his two guys were Sheamus and John Cena.
Yeah, that's a good two. So Kurt Angle coming to TNA.
It's very exciting.
TNA's website issued the following statement on September
1 warning.
It is a good warning for once as opposed to a bad one. It was a message from TNA president Dixie Carter to the TNA fans. This is a Dixie quote, so you do have to read it.
In the course of history,
oh no, Mauro.
There are defining moments that change the fabric of a company forever. I'm just Jim Cornette now, that's all I can do. These are moments that are spoken about for years, not days, and serve as benchmarks in the annals of company's growth. And on occasion, these moments transcend the individual company and rewrite the history of the industry. This Sunday at No Surrender pay-per-view, an announcement will be made that will do just that. You will not want to miss the No Surrender pay-per-view.
So how do you feel about the level of hype of that announcement?
I almost prefer that they didn't like advertise it super heavy. Like, and also they're probably still working out details, you know.
Which is funny. Like this statement was put on the website. The pay-per-view. Let me get the date. I think it's the 24th. 24th is the pay-per-view. And never once on the TNA wrestling television show Impact did they mention this.
But like, I get it because by all accounts, like 4 people knew.
Yeah, they wanted to keep a tight lid. The more you teased it, the more people would probably have to come into it. But like, there's a quote at this point that I included. Like, Dave Meltzer called this at one point the best held secret in his time in professional wrestling. Which, like, think of the ground that covers. That like,
you know who knew about it?
Who?
Dixie Carter, Jeff Jarrett, Super Dragon.
Why did Super Dragon tried to book him, didn't he?
He tried to book Kurt versus Danielson and had to be told by TNA that they couldn't do it.
Before he was actually
announced.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So they made this announcement. Dixie Carter has kept a tight lid on the actual announcement, and who actually knows other than Jeff Jarrett isn't clear. What is clear from the TNA website announcement is that something big will be revealed at No Surrender. The 3 main guesses among various sources is that TNA has signed Bill Goldberg, TNA has signed Kurt Angle, or TNA will be expanding to moving to a new primetime slot, or both.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah, or well, half of the other one because they were expanding, or they were moving to a primetime slot, but not expanding. Jim Cornette introduced at the end of TNA's No Surrender pay-per-view a video which featured Kurt Angle. He was headed to TNA. That revealed the secret that TNA has been teasing for nearly a week through its website on the pay-per-view pre-game show and during the pay-per-view itself. It is funny, you get in the pay-per-view itself and then all of a sudden it's like Mike is telling us big announcement, Jim Cornette is telling us big announcement. It's like, oh, here it is.
Yeah.
Dixie Carter said the surprise would change the course of the industry, and the signing of Angle does have that potential. Initial concerns centered around why TNA signed Angle when WWE had apparently determined he was too physically and emotionally at risk to employ anymore.
Okay, well, first of all, it's like, we know why. It's like,
Again.
the why isn't the question there. It is the should.
Yeah, like this is the company that had Jeff Hardy around for a year and a half when they probably shouldn't have, but his name is Jeff Hardy. And it's the exact same thing here. It's like, whatever you say about Kurt's physical, mental, emotional well-being, he's Kurt Angle.
John Cena could be smoking crack in the middle of the ring and they should still sign him.
Yep. After his hands frequently going numb during matches the past couple of years due to his neck problems, accumulated stress from life on the road and marital issues leading to erratic behavior, and a heavy usage of pain pills, WWE cut all ties with them, presumably only after failed attempts to get him to seek help for his issues. We'll talk about this more in a second, about exactly why he was available. We'll focus on the TNA stuff at first. Angle came to Nashville on the 20th of September, filmed secret vignettes in a local warehouse, and TNA did not even allow its regular television crew to film it, using a different crew, making them sign confidentiality papers and filming at midnight. The only thing that did get out is they hired several local independent wrestlers to set up a ring, paid them well, and made them sign confidentiality agreements, but none of them saw Angle, and they left confused, believing that nobody ever got into the ring they set up. Angle wrote a 6-page handwritten thank you letter to Dixie Carter that day, which apparently she was touched by, which Dave had this. I don't know where he got it from.
Probably from Kurt Angle.
Or Dixie. Angle's statement, handwritten on a hotel notepad in Nashville this past week after shooting his vignette, reads as follows. Being with TNA feels like I have finally found my home. I had fun in WWE at certain times, but I was never really happy. Now being part of TNA, I know I have a purpose. I feel like I am part of history, part of a company that is not only on the rise, not only going to be the #1 watched wrestling show in the world within a short period of time, but TNA gives me an opportunity to spread my wings. The company has no limits to where it can go. The sky is the limit, and the main reason is because they brought the real back into wrestling, and that is the perfect fit for the greatest wrestler in the US Olympic history. I have room to grow here and to help TNA grow. Working for these caring and very giving employers of TNA makes me feel like I have a purpose and that sky is the limit. I don't feel trapped or held back like I did the first 6 years of my tenure with the other company. They held me back. Now our wonderful audience will see the real Kurt Angle doing what I love to do, real wrestling. And that's what puts a smile on my face each time I come to work. I even smile when I think about it. TNA will be the most watched television show on cable television. It's only a matter of time. Now I get the opportunity and privilege of being part of it. Thank you, TNA, for saving my career, my life, and my desire to do what I love. I will be here in some capacity for the rest of my life. That's real.
Huh?
That's damn real. He gave it 10 years. Like, he gave it a fair whack.
Yeah.
If he said that, then he's gone. And if he's like Christian, if he had like a Christian run, it's like, I would be like, fuck you. But he gave it a fair whack.
Yeah, it's a great attitude to go into a company with.
If you are Dixie Carter and you do read that, you are like, fuck yeah.
Yeah. Like if I'm Tony Khan, like I want Miro to send me this shit the day that he shows up, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're like, you are in, you want to take this to the next level. This is a meaningful thing to you. You're not just cashing a paycheck because you got fired by the other place.
Yeah, sounds perfect.
Dixie Carter said this week that TNA is a family organization that puts the health of its workers first. That will be tested if it appears Angle needs help or treatment, but he's booked for a major pay-per-view match. TNA sources say it's obvious the company is taking a risk, but they are taking Angle at his word that he's fine and plan to take steps to get medical clearance from doctors before he participates. It's possible TNA already had a physician of their own choosing evaluate him because the situation is sensitive and because his signing was kept secret until Sunday. Few details are known at this point. TNA sources say that Angle does plan to make himself available to the media very soon to address many of the questions fans and media have about his health and whether by supporting TNA they are guilty of taking part in putting him in a dangerous position. The circle of people who knew about Angle ahead of time consisted of Dixie Carter, Jeff Jarrett, Dave Sahadi, Sting, TNA's CFO, a couple of Spike TV officials, and maybe talent director Terry Taylor, but Taylor was not the one that did negotiations. Apparently this was negotiated directly with Dixie herself. TNA has what is described as an exclusive relationship with Angle, with the caveat, I believe, that he is able to do MMA if he wants to. Because that was like the big thing at the time, that like there was a lot of speculation that Kurt would go to the UFC.
He would have died.
He would have died. I'll talk about this in a sec, but like one of the reactions from within WWE is that while they would prefer not to see him with the competition, they would also prefer him in TNA than going to UFC.
Yeah. I mean, like, 1999 Kurt Angle? Sure. But, like, Kurt Angle now? No. He would die.
No. Yeah, like, keeping Terry Taylor out of negotiations was, like, that was how concerned Dixie was with keeping this secret. TNA has not released details of his contract other than indications he is part of its long-term plans. Many booking ideas are being bandied about within the company, hoping that Angle is able to perform reliably and safely for months, if not years to come. Which he broadly was. There are periods where Kurt's pretty rough.
Yeah, there's a whole different name for those periods.
But even during some of those periods, he's still the best wrestler in the world.
Yeah, like, that's the craziest thing is, like, even on, like, autopilot, the man is, like, one of the best to ever do it.
Yeah, like that, and I don't think his entire career in TNA is on autopilot. I don't think the entire thing is like a drug-addled haze, but there are certainly periods of it that you can see, like you look into the man's eyes at times, and you're like, oh shit, oh no. But then there are others where it's like, he's Kurt Angle. He's just Kurt Angle. His enthusiasm about the product and the company has led to a morale boost, albeit guarded, among wrestlers and management. Angle watched No Surrender from home, but was on phone with Dixie Carter several times during the show, commenting on what he was seeing. I'm sure he loved the laxative angle.
Finally, they put the real back in real wrestling.
Yeah, Petey Williams is shitting his pants. His public statements released through TNA indicate he's gung-ho about trying to take TNA not just to the next level. Oh, so TNA probably released that full statement. Okay, that makes sense. And to help it become the top-rated wrestling show on cable. Angle clearly feels abandoned or wronged by WWE. Whether that's rational based on the circumstances does not matter when it comes to his motivation to help TNA improve its stature and profile. Sting met Kurt Angle for the first time last week when TNA filmed the Kurt Angle video in an empty warehouse with a wrestling ring setup. Sting was among the roughly half dozen people who knew of Angle's pending arrival because he was also there to film footage of his costume. He underwent a makeover, but how extreme isn't being revealed by anybody at this point, because the idea is that like Sting is disappearing to train for Bound for Glory. We'll talk about that when we get to the stories on the show. Dave Sahadi, who was responsible for much of TNA's highly praised video production work, filmed the Angle vignettes.
Dave Sahadi, the GOAT.
Yeah, it's a very simple vignette. It is like literally Kurt Angle is appearing on screen doing like dropping to a knee and other such wrestling motions. As Barry Scott's like, he is the Olympic gold medalist, he is the world champion, Kurt Angle is coming to TNA, and then you just get Kurt with the "it's real, it's damn real." Simple video, dropped at the end. It was fun that you didn't know that it was on the show.
No, because like I try to be like as in the dark as possible.
Like, I don't want to know this shit, you know?
Which was fun because like they were teasing at the end of the show. They made another announcement that we'll talk about in a second as well. But like, when they got there, it's like, does Liam know that this is Kurt? And then Kurt appeared on the screen. You're like, oh, Liam didn't know it was Kurt. That's fun.
Yeah, I don't know when, you know.
You can hear Liam's organic reaction to it on the watch along. Mike Tenay pushed in a production meeting the afternoon of the pay-per-view to find out more about the surprise announcement so he wouldn't be at risk of hurting his credibility by overhyping it. He was not given any hints and was told to do as he was asked and pushed the surprise as an industry-changing announcement. He was among several people who are usually plugged into what's going on who are upset or hurt that they weren't trusted. A number of wrestlers were also offended they weren't told, but once the secret was revealed on the video screen, they got over it pretty quickly and were excited about the potential mixed with concern over his health. Most of us assumed it was the time slot change, said one TNA wrestler, so we weren't all that concerned during the show, figuring it wouldn't change our lives much. We were as surprised as anybody when that video aired.
That's good.
I think Mike today does have like a little bit of a right to be like it is his job, like, to maintain that credibility. So I think it's fair that he is like, guys, I should know this. It's important for me to know this. But they at least in this instance didn't betray him. They didn't have him like August 1st morning it, being like, this is a thing that will change the face of wrestling and it be something shit. So at least like they didn't bury Mike that way.
It should have been Rampage.
In 2006?
Yeah.
Hell yes. Rampage and Joe. At Raw the next night in Oklahoma City, it was the only thing people were talking about. From backstage, it was said that not one person acted upset, betrayed, or angry about Angle going to TNA. Even Office people made no negative comments about Angle going into the competition. Nobody was aware of his letter that was negative about the company at the time. So this was before the letter being like, I hated it there, they will be back, came out. So... Everyone was just hoping Angle would recognize his condition, and some were saying they hope he realizes the reality of the situation and environment he was getting into. If anything, the prevailing belief was tempered relief, because it was almost universally felt that this was better for him in the long run than going to UFC. And of course, like, there is a fundamental difference between working WWE at this point, which is television every single week and multiple house shows at the weekend, versus TNA, where Kurt would be at best working 5 dates a month.
Where he's wrestling 2.
And because it's a certain person's television these days, the TV matches aren't exactly going to be the most exacting on Kurt's body.
Yeah.
But also, like, the flip side that Dave mentions at one point, because, like, this is now the company hung on Kurt Angle, Kurt might feel the extra expectation that, like, he has to give those Kurt Angle performances more than he might have in WWE, where, like, the spread of that weight is across multiple shoulders rather than just Kurt's.
Yeah. He is the top guy.
Yeah, he is the guy. Like, the when you build with the guy coming in as, like, a thing that will change the industry forever, which it didn't, but I get why they hyped it that way, that's fine. That does put pressure on Kurt to change the industry forever.
Yeah.
So you might be asking yourself, fair listener, why exactly was Kurt Angle available?
Exactly. He's a pretty big star. How could WWE let this happen?
Yeah, one of WWE's top stars for the last 6 years on TV, but 8 years from when they signed him. Why is he gone? Why is he available? I don't know. WWE broke off ties earlier in September with Kurt Angle and granted him an unconditional release. They immediately announced the decision on WWE.com. Angle instantly became a free agent, able to sign with TNA, UFC, New Japan, 01, K1, and NASCAR if he wanted. I don't know why PW Torch listed all of those, but sure.
I guess they were all options.
The string of events that led up to the severing of ties on Friday is a complex web of problems in Angle's life, both personal and professional, which manifested into a situation WWE wanted no part of. WWE said that they would welcome him back, and they genuinely would, but only if he makes changes in his life and gets help for his abundance of problems. WWE's public comment on the situation initially was, due to personal issues, Kurt Angle has been granted an early release from his contract. WWE looks forward to establishing a new relationship with Kurt in the near future. The story then highlighted his great accomplishments in WWE. The next day, Angle granted WWE.com an interview saying, "My body is so beat up and run down, I can't even think straight," said Angle. "I need my body to re-heal and rehab. I have done this for too long without a break. I haven't been able to really enjoy my life. I haven't seen my family. I have had problems with medication. I'm just fried physically and mentally." Angle's business manager Dave Hawk was quoted in the story also. "Kurt's in a tremendous amount of pain," he said. "He's used prescription medication to deal with it. Kurt has come to the conclusion that unless he can get in the ring without the use of pain medication, that he doesn't need to be in there. He realizes he was just endangering himself and his opponents." Angle said he can't even think about returning until he heals up physically and mentally. Vince says, "When I'm ready, if I'm ever ready, to come back and just sign on the dotted line." Angle said, "I'll tell you, if I do return, I'm going to go back to my roots, training on the mat like my amateur days. Longevity is the key." Vince McMahon commented on the situation on Monday. He said, "It's unfortunate that Kurt was released, and it's really unfortunate for WWE fans who for a while won't see Angle in action. Angle is a consummate professional. Obviously, he's a great athlete, and he's the only Olympic gold medalist in WWE history. Not to have Kurt with us is really unfortunate all the way around, but circumstances were such that Kurt should have been and was granted his release." He goes on to talk about Kurt dealing with the pain, and so, like, you might think, Liam, hearing all of that it was WWE's thoughtful and generous concern about Kurt that caused him to be released.
That's the message I'm receiving from this PR.
Oh, this PR, you say? It's kind of crazy, this PR rollout that firmly affixes any responsibility to Kurt, and has Kurt and his manager quoted being like, "This is all me, I'm a mess, WWE is fine, nothing to do with WWE, don't think about it, don't think about the wellness policy, don't think about Eddie Guerrero."
And when it comes down to it, it's like, how did Kurt hurt himself so much again? Well, what was he doing? Where?
Who allowed this man to constantly come back from, like, injuries before he should have?
Kurt, he made that call.
Yeah, he overruled Vince. He got in the office and is like, Vince, I'm coming.
I have all the power.
Yeah, it's such like a transparent like PR rollout that they're like, it's really weird to see. Like this is the kind of thing they probably want, because like when Sasha and Naomi left, like it was a PR hit job, you know? It was like they have taken food off the tables of the WWE wrestlers and they've taken entertainment away from the WWE fans and they betrayed the WWE universe. Like it was discrediting them. Where this one, like they got Kurt in and it's just like, Kurt, you're going to say this is all you, nothing to do with us, and we are thoughtful and kind for firing you. And, like, I don't fully blame WWE for doing that. They're protecting themselves from liability. That's what companies do. It's what companies will always do. But it's just really weird to look back on and be like, oh, they're thoughtful and concerning here, Liam. Thoughtful and concerning.
It also just feels like it's such a... It's, like, so weird and, like, something you would never see now. Like, to have, like, Kurt talk about it post-release, to have his manager talk about it, and to have, like, obviously Vince, but, like, to have WWE leadership also be quoted all in a story that they released is like so, like that's never gonna happen again. Because when people leave, they either get buried or like they're never mentioned ever again.
Yeah, it's silence. That's usually what you get. Well, like Kurt's release, and you'll get Dave, or you'll get Wade, or you'll get Mike Johnson, or these days Sean Ross Sapp. They'll give you like the details about why this happened, and maybe some people speaking off the record on it. But yeah, to get like Kurt and his manager and Vince in a piece released on WWE.com going through all of this is very unusual. And like the thing that makes it stranger is like the defining message here is that like Kurt is stepping away, but he will come back. There is an open door for him to come back. If he solves his problems, he's still in the WWE family, and then he fucks off to TNA that month.
Yeah, it's wild.
Which is, I think, what made people like not really consider that it would be Kurt.
It's great build for his debut.
Yeah, because like Kurt Angle being released and TNA hyping a major announcement shortly after, people should have really put two and two together. And like obviously they did, because one of the things they speculated was that it would be Kurt. But like I think part of what made people think it wouldn't be is like all of this PR rollout. That it was just like, you know, Kurt will be back. He loves WWE. WWE loves him. They're so great together. It's just this little separation for a little while. And then Kurt goes to TNA for 10 years.
Yeah.
Kurt Angle posted a message to his fans on his personal website stating that he was eager to return to WWE someday and perform for his fans again. He didn't acknowledge the severity of his issues, only noting that he wanted to spend more time with the family he loves. He thanked the fans for their support. He said he wants to be the greatest ever and contended that he has an edge over the greats because he's more intense than all of them, which I love that. It's, guys, I'm the best. Listen, I'm the best. That's really important for you to know right now.
Yeah, like, these are all the questions that people must be asking me right now.
I'm the greatest wrestler. He wrote, injuries have always been a natural part of the business in my life, but where I have failed is not taking the time off to recover. When I'm off the mental stress, sitting back becomes worse than the physical pain, something that tells my inner soul to go back regardless of condition. That's wrestlers for you. Like, no matter what the logic or the reason, if you're hurt, you can't do it. Like, their brains, or Kurt's phrase, their inner soul tells them to go back and work. It's just how they're wired. Back to Kurt. The funny thing is, this obsession is what the industry loves, but this obsession can also be my destruction.
He's so aware that this is the worst thing for him.
Yeah, it's the toxic relationship wrestlers have with this industry. Like they can't, like, it is... Like Kurt is a person who dealt with addiction issues, you know. That's part of the thing we're talking about here, is that he has to deal with pain medication to just get through all this. But like, I feel like there is a certain addictive nature to pro wrestling itself, to like that pop and that reaction and that thing.
I mean, yeah, it's live performance.
And, like, these people can't let it go. Like, they can't. For either health reasons, in this case of Kurt here, or, like, just, like, coming out of retirement constantly, like, if you're a Ric Flair or whoever, because you want that, well, maybe Flair's financial reasons, but, like, people constantly wanting that one last run and that one last moment and that one more pop, and they're willing to do increasingly bad things for themselves physically, mentally, emotionally to get it. Kurt concludes, "Fans, thank you for all the memories. It was quite a ride. I would not trade any of it for the world. As I sit here a bit teary-eyed, I do want you all to know I will be fine. I will finally get to spend some real quality time with my family, time that is much, much overdue. My plan and goal is to become stronger mentally, physically, and spiritually. I, Kurt Angle, will be back." That's a promise, and that's damn true. Not real, though. Vince, if you happen to read this, I want again to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. You are a great man. When we get together, the next cup of coffee is on me. Perhaps PW Torch says, most concerning, though, was the line early on that said, "I know in my heart that I have not reached my peak." So, like, there was a lot of concern that TNA was enabling Kurt Angle.
Well, they are.
Which they are.
Well, the reason they have that concern is because they are.
This man is a physical and emotional wreck, so much so that WWE have to cut ties with them because he is a legal liability, and TNA come along and be like, "Hey buddy, you want to come along? You want to wrestle? You want to wrestle? You want to do some wrestling?" And Kurt's like, "I do, but I can't." But then they're like, "You want to wrestle?"
Yeah, you only have to wrestle like once a month. And he's like,
We can at least sit here, 18 years after this happened, and tell you it more or less worked out okay.
But it was a hell of a risk.
It was. And one maybe they didn't, and maybe one that was irresponsible of them to take. I think even more on, like, Jeff Hardy was a thing where, like, he might show up a little fucked up, or he might no show, but, like, wrestling was not, like, a fundamental risk to Jeff Hardy's life. Whereas it really feels like at this point in Kurt Angle's life and career, him still wrestling was a fundamental risk to his life. So the idea of you enabling him to continue to wrestle was potentially, like, negligent about this man's life. Not just, will he show up for the show, or will he be able to deliver on the level that you would hope a Kurt Angle or Jeff Hardy would be able to deliver. It's like, you might kill him by doing this.
Yeah.
So, like, that being, like, the thought and the concern, entirely fair, but it more or less worked out.
Yeah. So, good work.
Kurt seems to be in an okay place these days. You never know in, like, the private life. It was the thing when Scott Hall passed away where, like, there was the story a few months later that, like, no one wanted to say that he relapsed, but it turned out he had relapsed.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's one of those things where you never know, but it seems like he's doing well for himself.
Yeah.
So yeah, Kurt Angle. He's in TNA now, so we'll be talking about him for a while.
I'm very excited to at least watch Kurt Angle.
Vince Russo!
From the highs to the lows.
Had sworn off professional wrestling. Those who knew better, though, thought he'd be back. Not because Russo was lying, but because they know how tough it is to walk away forever, even if you intend to, especially when you have connections who still believe in you.
Why do they still believe in you?
Who knows? TNA rehired Russo last week, right before No Surrender, to lead a three-man booking team along with current booking team members.
Why is he leading it?
Jeff Jarrett and Touch Mantel.
Oh, it's the worst three.
There is some, like Dave has a different perspective that's kind of like it's still a little bit by committee, whereas PW Torch lean a little more like it is Russo's vision.
It is the worst three.
It is.
To ever book it.
It is. It's the worst three. You got rid of the good people. Ousted from the committee by TNA President Dixie Carter were Scott D'Amore, Mike Tenay, and Jeremy Borash. None of whom, surprisingly, were happy about it.
Like, the three worst booking runs. Like, the only thing worse would be if they replaced Jarrett with Dusty.
Yeah. All the bad creatives.
Like, it is the three of the four worst booking errors in his company's history are now in charge. Like, and arguably Dutch is the worst of the three. Like, that's the craziest bit.
Yeah, because, like you only have to go back and watch, or listen, I guess, to our coverage of 2004, when it was, like, Russo was only kind of vaguely involved and he was gone by, like, October. And then it was, for the most part, a Jeff Jarrett, Dutch Mantel booked show that had some Russo fiddling here and there in the edges. And it was fucking dire. It was dreadful.
It's the worst three. Why are we doing this?
It was like the most soul-crushing version of wrestling you've ever watched, where nothing happened, but also it was the period where TNA had the most content they've ever had, because they had Impact and the 2-hour weekly pay-per-views every week. So it was like 3 hours of nothing every single goddamn week.
Why are we doing this?
And that's our booking committee.
I don't want to do this anymore.
Kurt Angle, Vince Russo. All three, D'Amore, TNA, and Borash, remain with TNA, with Borash and D'Amore working behind the scenes for now, and TNA remaining as an announcer. In recent years, Russo became a born-again Christian. Russo had vowed not to return to pro wrestling. In fact, at the end of the Ultimate Insiders DVD interview with Russo and Ed Ferrara, Russo said he wouldn't do it over again if he had the chance, and was through with wrestling for good. He said he hated pro wrestling for what it did to his life. So why did he feel that way, and why is he changing his mind? Sources say Russo is not short on cash, so it's not a money thing. It's said to be more the case of Russo having achieved the most success in his life in pro wrestling, and once he distanced himself from the hard feelings and resentment that stemmed from failed booking reigns, he got the itch to return and try and build on a successful note to end his career.
You know, if we...
He's going through many emotions here.
I mean, we just have to live through it. There's no solution here.
Like, my big problem is that, like, the creative at the moment is not infallible.
No. But, like, it's fine.
It's not like it's the best show of all time. It has problems, some of which are long-term problems that they haven't fixed. We'll talk about ratings again in a minute, because fucking we have to. But in terms of, like, the actual art of the television show, it has issues, but is mostly fine. My biggest problem with them replacing the three they replaced with Russo is you're basically saying the version of the show we have now, we just want a more extreme version of. Because, like, this show is not fundamentally different from a Vince Russo vision of wrestling. It's not like it's so ideologically opposed to Vince Russo's vision. There's very little wrestling on it. It's all about angles. It's all about promos. It's all about stories. And then you get a 2-minute match. So, like, the actual show as it is under this booking committee is very Russo adjacent already. So if you're like, this isn't working, if that is your belief, if your belief is the version or the vision of wrestling you have right now is ineffective for what you want to achieve, why are you hiring the guy who will just give you a more extreme version of that, instead of trying to find somebody who will give you something at least fundamentally different from what you have?
Because he's the fucking biggest carny ever and can convince people this is what they want.
Yeah, there's apparently a bunch of people. Terry Taylor is a big Russo guy, apparently, so there's apparently a bunch of people pushing for him. I'm sure Jarrett doesn't mind, because they're buddies.
Yes,
And I think Jarrett probably knows that he has more of a way of getting, like, his vision of wrestling through Russo than he probably does through, like, Mike Tenay.
Yeah.
He'll probably be like, that's bullshit and terrible, why are we doing this? Because by all accounts, we'll talk about that in a second, because Dave goes through, like, the dynamics of the existing committee, which I think are kind of interesting. But, like, it's the frustrating thing to me about, like, I don't know, the last 25 years of wrestling, that, like, you tried Russo, he had booked this company before. So, like, it's not like he didn't have a chance. So here you're wanting to make a change. We can disagree or agree about whether or not that change needs to be made, all right. But it's the same old people. It's the same people over and over again.
It's always the same people.
It's like, we'll give Russo a go. Russo doesn't work, we'll give Eric Bischoff a go. Eric Bischoff doesn't work, we'll give Bruce Pritchard a go. Bruce Pritchard doesn't work, we'll give, like, Dave Lagana and John Gaburick a go. They don't work, let's go to other people that worked in other companies. There's no, like, let's find a new, different, exciting vision of wrestling.
And you know what the thing is? The only time in, like, the last decade where it has worked... Okay, last 2 decades, right?
Yep.
The 2 places that worked and grew in that time... New Japan and All Elite Wrestling.
What's the uniting factor between those two, Liam?
Both were bookers getting the chance for the first time.
And, God, did they bring new ideas and a different vision to wrestling?
And it worked!
But what if Liam, you know, they could have done the new thing. Fine. New people? No. What if they hired, like, I don't know.
Paul Heyman.
Yes. One of the same fucking 4 people we've been cycling through for 25 goddamn years.
You know, like, okay, even at the most jaded person ever, right? Like, objectively, like, the Tony booking thing worked for at least 2 years, right?
Yep.
Even the most jaded person in the world, the New Japan thing worked for a minimum 7 years.
Yep.
So it's like, there's clearly value in putting new people in that position. Or giving them their shot at the top, you know? Like, cause, like, I'm sure Gary was involved in things back and forth, but, like, giving him a shot to, like, just go for it and have his vision be the company.
Even if you wanted to extend that to Triple H.
Yeah. Which, like, people like now, right? Bad man gone.
We're still doing the same old shit. It's still the same people over and over again. Instead of just being like, let's do something new. Let's do something exciting. It's so frustrating. It's really frustrating to watch this. As I said, like, you can debate about whether this change needed to be made, which I don't think it really did. You can debate that to the moon, but, like, Russo is the worst. He's the worst. What are you doing? And he's going to give you the same thing, just badder. He's going to give you a more incoherent, worse version of the thing you're doing right now. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Because TNA has been building toward Bound for Glory for more than a month and considers it their biggest annual pay-per-view, there is little flexibility to shake everything up. So until that pay-per-view takes place, Russo will be working within the booking plans that had already been written. After Bound for Glory, though, it's expected Jarrett and Mantell will defer to Russo per Dixie Carter's wishes and let his vision take over. At that point, all bets are off.
I'm ready for it. I'm ready for the fucking chaos. We're going prime time, baby. Let's just fucking go. Let's go fucking nuts with it.
You notice the shift pretty quick as well.
I'm ready for the Fire Russo chants.
Well, there was a "This is stupid" chant on the pay-per-view.
Yeah, but they don't know yet.
Russo wants to make his mark and realizes that there is pressure from above to take TNA in a new direction that will lead to better ratings and better pay-per-view buy rates. Which, like, you just got Kurt Angle. You'll get it by default. It's so annoying to me.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not the case that Russo will change things. You just signed Kurt Angle. Multiple sources indicate that frustration among at least a half dozen wrestlers had grown to the point that there was going to be a major rebellion against the status quo that could have a drastic effect on TNA's business.
Who the fuck was whining?
Every time I say it, I read a quote like this, BG James.
But it's like, who gives a shit if BG James fucking walks?
Apparently Dixie.
That's so stupid.
Some of those frustrated wrestlers are fans of Russo, so their concerns have been assuaged for the time being. A lot of
fans of Russo's go fuck yourself.
A lot was going to happen, says one source. So much talent was frustrated, it was ready to explode. It wouldn't have been pretty. Also ominous is the fact that he has not been watching regularly the past few years, and that means he doesn't have his finger on the pulse of what TNA's target market has been exposed to. Without that knowledge, it's difficult to figure out what those fans he's trying to reach are most eager to see. One of the little things dropped in is like, oh, he's also a fan of Samoa Joe, which he's fucking not.
Yeah, he's a fan of Samoa Joe, but he's gonna be like, how can I make this into some real wrestling?
It's the same thing. If you listen to our friends at Days of Thunder, who have covered Russo's arrival to WCW recently, it was kind of the same thing where, like, the stuff Russo was, like, leaking into the media is like, I love, like, Buff Bagwell and Billy Kidman and Shane Douglas and whoever. Like, he was listing off Rey Mysterio, you know, the kind of younger, underserved guys who, in theory, should be pushed.
Yeah, but it's like, if you love him so much, why are they still under-pushed?
And then, yeah, he gets there. And even if he's doing stuff with them, the stuff is garbage, and he doesn't help them at all.
Probably thinks he's doing well.
So Dave offers more, like, insight onto how, like, the existing committee worked, which I think is kind of interesting. Russo is one of 3 on the committee. The negative of the 5-man committee is that it was nobody's pure view. You got more ideas, but a lot of it came down to voting. Generally, Jarrett was steering the direction, as he will be now. Anything he wanted, he was going to get automatic approval of Mantell and Borash, and it wasn't like it was a lot of 3-2 votes as much as everybody contributing ideas, with Jarrett usually making the final choices. It will be the same thing here. For the most part, the TV ended up based around Jarrett, and if that changes, it's going to be Jarrett making the call, not Russo.
Whatever, man.
The 2 big changes made in the pay-per-view by the new committee was changing the planned Chris Sabin title win over Loki. That match should be saved in a time capsule for wrestling fans 100 years from now to see as a definition of a finish ruining a good match, says Dave. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
The blow-up doll finish?
Yeah, but, like, a really good match?
Yeah.
The whole fucking thing was shenanigans. What are you talking about?
They also changed plans for LAX to keep the tag titles, putting them back on Styles and Daniels to keep the program going to meet in a steel cage match next month. The old direction was to try and rebuild the weekend the X Division, with Styles and Daniels going back to it as big stars for the proposed 2-hour television show, figuring that they'd have the time for long weekly matches to showcase wrestling, and LAX was going to face the Naturals, who Dave says has no chance of getting over. I'm fine with them. I don't agree with putting Styles and Nails back in the tag division. They should be moving up, not back down. But yeah, interesting that those are the kind of two changes that were made to No Surrender anyway.
This is stupid. Why are we still here?
You're really well, actually, you're viewing from different versions of It's All Over. You're like, it's all over, I'm going to embrace it, versus defeated, it's all over.
I'm going through like all the stages of grief
that TNA fans would have felt at this moment in 2006.
Yeah.
Jim Cornette has made no secret of the fact that he has no respect for Vince Russo, based largely on Russo mocking Jim
Hell
Ross
yeah,
at the Oklahoma
our
City
savior,
Nitro.
Jim. I'm sorry for any bad things I ever said about you.
Dave, when this is announced, Dave is like, why not try Cornette?
Exactly, he's right there.
Even Dave is like, your best success story is Samoa Joe, who was booked well by Gabe Sapolsky, so why not try Gabe?
Again, he's right.
But no, Russo.
I mean, they never would, but like, he's right.
And in Cornette's world, when he doesn't like you, that means if he sees you, he wants to fight you, which seems extreme, but fine.
That's awesome. I mean, bad. Ooh.
It's just who he is, and even his friends just laugh about his hot-headed nature. He despises Russo so much that he even has told people that during negotiations with TNA management, either when he first arrived or recently when he signed long-term, that he would not work with Russo should he return. Which is interesting that all the way back in June, he's like, you guys thinking about Russo? You guys thinking about that? Huh? Cornette suspected he might because of Russo's past stints as TNA booker and his friendship with Jeff Jarrett. So when news hit that Russo had been rehired, immediately many people began wondering what that meant for Cornette. For one, Cornette is not jealous of Russo being hired. He does not have interest at this time, despite his history as a lead booker and being on the booking committee for WCW, WWF, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and OVW. He is said to be learning to enjoy life without the stress of the responsibility of booking a weekly TV show and managing wrestlers and their egos. However, at a convention appearance last weekend, when asked about Russo, he made it clear he expected TNA management to keep he and Russo apart and not expect him to work in any way.
That rules.
That means Jarrett and Dutch Mantel likely being the messengers from the booking committee in giving Cornette his instructions. Cornette and Russo coexisted at Sunday's pay-per-view at No Surrender and the TV taping following, but nobody saw them come within earshot of each other. Regarding the booking committee, one wrestler was overheard saying, "The monster still lives. They cut off both the arms and one of his legs," Scott D'Amore, JB, and Mike Tenay, but left his other leg and his head attached, in terms of Dutch and Jarrett. Which, yeah, that's the other thing. If you are, again, going to be like, this creative is bad and it needs to change, full change. New team.
Yeah.
New vision. None of this, like, half-measure bullshit where we're like a little of old, a little of new. Like, be bold about it. Don't be fucking cowards.
Yeah.
So, and a third of very major stories this month. Kurt Angle coming to TNA. Vince Russo returning to TNA. Almost lost in it was the announcement that TNA, at No Surrender, announced that TNA Impact will be moving to its primetime spot on Thursday, November 16th. The new time slot would kick off with a 2-hour special from 9 to 11, then settle into a weekly 1-hour format from 9 to 10. TNA has long desired a weekly night time slot similar to Raw and SmackDown. If TNA experiences rating success in the new time slot and with Angle as a headline act and Russo booking, a jump to 2 hours is almost assured in 2007. There is, of course, fucking endless ratings discussion this month. Every single week it's like, UFC lead-in didn't increase Impact ratings even though it didn't for the entire time they've been here. We haven't learned a single thing. It's fluctuating from a 0.7 to a 0.9. Oh,
I don't want to do ratings talk. It's so useless.
It does put into context just how fundamentally useless it is. Like, how fundamentally, like, inane these talking points are. That you are, like, parsing the difference between a 0.7 and a 0.9. Like, the sky is falling. That, like, this is a disaster. It's a terrible rating. They have 1 million people watching on Spike TV. It's like, I can't interact with it.
Here we are, interacting with it.
I have to once again tie it to the Russo story, though. I have to call these fucking shitehawks out for fundamentally changing wrestling. Like, that's what they did here. Like, they covered this stuff to death so that everybody was fucking hand-wringing for 6 months straight about television ratings instead of being happy that you're on national television with 1 million people watching with your television partner moving you to fucking prime time. So they're perfectly happy with it while you're all fucking stabbing each other and melting down, and all the media can do is be like, it's a 0.7 this week. That's a disaster.
Whoa.
And this is the final result. You get Vince Russo. You get the fucking brochachos. That's what you get when you do this. Like, you get people desperately pandering to an audience that's not theirs in an imaginary world that they can turn them into fans of theirs instead of just staying with the thing they watch. Because they're not going to watch AEW if it's more like WWE. Because guess what? They like WWE. And they get WWE from WWE.
You tell them, King.
You have to give them something different. You have to give them an alternative. And then there'll be people who will be like, well, that alternative doesn't appeal to a casual fan. To which I'll say, fuck off. Because you build the audience you build. If you put on a product that is built on something different from WWE, you will attract an audience that then likes and expects something different from WWE. That's the way it works. Fucking nonsense bullshit. I hate it. I hate
It's like nonsense bullshit.
I said nonsense, but sure. I did not accuse any wrestling media of being a nonce.
Yet.
Just of being like just desperate take merchants who.
I mean, yeah, it's insane. It's insane, stupid bullshit. But here we are again. Here we will be for the rest of our lives.
We'll do an AEW retrospective podcast, and I'll do the same rant when I'm 50.
Yeah, we will. I'm just accepting it now.
The AAA organization in Mexico is trying to set up a TNA versus AAA program for a big stadium show on September 18th in Naucalpan? Nailed it.
Yeah, This is pretty much on the money.
The show ended up drawing 17,000 fans with some footage being shot for TNA TV. My first note when I looked at this card is seeing in the opening match Laredo Kid.
Different Laredo Kid.
Is it a different Laredo Kid?
I think so.
I don't think it is. Wikipedia does or Cage Match doesn't have it as a different Laredo Kid.
Oh, okay. I thought there was 2 Laredo Kids, but I'm not the most reliable narrator on that aspect either.
But like they have Laredo Wrestling as from 2003, so he was around. It's just crazy to me to think that this dude's been around since he was like in his mid-teens. Just kicking about, like yeah, literally being a child. So they had like a mini tournament. So like they had like a team TNA, which was AJ Styles, Homicide, Loki, and Samoa Joe. Just like the most badass team TNA you could possibly have. So there was like a tournament with some bullshit. Abyss, Jeff Jarrett, and Conan also were in the main event. But yeah, a big AAA show drew 17,000 fans.
Sweet.
It's pretty neat.
It is pretty sweet.
I would go down to Mexico and do some TV in front of giant crowds.
Can we watch that show?
I've no idea. It might be available somewhere. I know the history of Mexican wrestling being available to watch is a difficult task, but which is a shame. Ron Killings was looking to get out of his new 3-year contract and sign with the MTV startup instead. Because he was so disgruntled with his push.
That's so funny.
But after some indications were given to him that release might be an option, TNA's holding to him to his contract. He seemed less upset at recent shows than he had just a month ago. I think he had resigned himself to it.
He's like, hey, Russo's back.
He's my guy. He'll push me.
Yeah, well, I guess like the one of the bigger run pushes was under Russo.
Yeah, like Russo was around when he won the belt both times, so
maybe he is secretly like, okay,
maybe there's something here for me, even though there is not. It's not a boon for Ron Killings. There is talk about Monty this month as well. Like there seem to be some indications that like they were closer to re-signing him, or like more optimistic about re-signing him at one point during the month, but obviously that did not happen. We will be talking about the end of Monty Brown when we get to the shows themselves, and for a nice little to mark the occasion, we'll also make the intro exclusively, other than Chris Rock and Mike Tenay, Monty Brown quotes.
Pounds.
Team 3D is set to be close to signing a new deal. They're set to return at or in the build-up to Bound for Glory. Jim Cornette is pushing for Matt Morgan to be brought in, but people in Power and TNA aren't sure he's such a good fit with the roster at this point. They're like, oh, he's a bit shit.
But we'll keep him for a decade.
Well, yeah, they wait another 7 months to sign him or whatever, sometime next year. From the "we'll see it when we believe it" department, numerous indications from sources point towards Jeff Jarrett's role with TNA being significantly different in 2007 compared to the last few years. Although Jarrett has stepped back a couple of times before, it's usually strategically been during TNA's lower profile stints without TV, or more recently when Christian became champion. With the signing of Kurt Angle and perhaps more significantly the sagging Impact ratings. Yeah, but listen, I can't help myself but rant about ratings. But you are like, ratings bad, so we're gonna keep the guy who made himself world champion during all those ratings bad periods on the booking committee. What are you doing? What are you doing? Dixie is apparently...
I don't know what we're doing anymore, man.
I promised I wouldn't get angry, but I'm like, fucking, I'm so, this change, this moment is like the one in TNA history that makes me most mad. Because like the potential of adding Angle to this company as it was is really interesting. And then you fucking undercut it all with Russo.
Nah, it's fine. This is good stuff.
Dixie Carter has apparently concluded that for TNA to grow, it's worth rolling the dice by pushing others in place of Jeff Jarrett. Maybe you should have tried that in like 2003. Whether Angle was signed or not, wheels were in motion to move Jarrett out of pay-per-view main events. Jarrett, perhaps surprisingly to outsiders, doesn't seem to be squeezing with all his might onto the top spot anymore. A number of colleagues believe he has been waiting, even hoping, for someone to come along and relieve him of the pressures. But he's loyal enough to Dixie Carter that he hasn't wanted to step back if he felt like he was the best man for the job. With Russo booking, who Jarrett has confidence in, and Angle arriving, who is without a question a bigger name, better draw, better wrestler, and better interview than Jarrett, his need to remain on top of pay-per-views and heading the booking committee is without question less necessary than it was 2 weeks ago. One Jarrett critic said, Jarrett, for all his faults, never pushed himself without also believing it was best for the company.
Yeah, I'm sure he always believed it.
I think he's been wrong, but I don't think he was intentionally hurting the company ever. Which, yeah, as you said, I agree with.
Yeah, I think for sure that man believed it.
I think the history of wrestling is paved, but people who think they're being pushed is good for the company and thus pushing themselves. That is simply the way it works. They delude themselves into thinking they're the only people for the job and they can't trust anybody else with the job, and therefore they must be pushed and it is right for them to be pushed.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole thing was like, oh, you know, he's loyal to Dixie, that he's like, he didn't want to step away from the main event spot. He wanted to support Dixie by being in the main event spot.
I agree.
I guess he got 4 years of it.
Listen, he's made a hell of a run for himself. To the detriment of me and you specifically.
This month especially, every time he talks this month, I'm like, fuck off. I want to die. Stop talking. The people who tried to like retcon Jeff Jarrett in the last 3 years, I will not forgive and I will not stand for. You are 17 and you were not around for this. You did not have to suffer this. And just because he has some good matches in AEW does not mean this did not happen. WWE is opposing Christian's application for a trademark on the moniker Captain Charisma. Christian filed it after leaving WWE. WWE contracts with all wrestlers state that any ring name or nickname that is used first in the promotion that then they then have the intellectual property to in perpetuity, because he's going to have to find an example that he used that nickname before coming to WWE, and he may not be able to do that. So if you're ever wondering why Christian went from Captain Charisma to the Instant Classic, this is why.
I like the Instant Classic.
More than Captain Charisma?
Captain Charisma has alliteration.
You can throw up the double C's.
I do love the double C's.
Which still stand for Christian Cage. You can still do the double C's. But
yeah, that's why he gets away with it.
As of August 19, these are the total sales for TNA DVDs at retail outlets. This includes most major chains, but not Walmart, where TNA products do very well. So funnily enough, the best-selling DVD is the Best of the X Division Volume 1.
They should probably push those guys.
You should maybe learn something from your best-selling DVD being the Best of the X Division Volume 1?
Nah.
Well, how about this, Liam? Second to best-selling DVD, the Best of AJ Styles.
What I'm seeing here is that Jeff Jarrett should be getting pushed.
Oh, interesting. A good perspective. Third is Best of Jeff Hardy, then Best of Bloody Sprawls, and a bunch of pay-per-views. And then you have Best of Rage.
Technically, Best of Bloody Sprawls could be a Jeff Jarrett one. Final Resolution could be a Jeff Jarrett one. So the rest of them are all Jeff Jarrett ones.
He is in the main event of all of the shows that are listed here. Fuck, he is in the main event of all the DVDs. I have to check the lineup of Best of the Bloodiest Brawls Volume 1. He is probably in some of them. And there has been talk about putting Elix Skipper, Monty Brown, and Ron Killings together as a group called BT. It's not a Russo idea, but a Terry Taylor idea.
What does the T stand for in this case?
Well, BT is Black Entertainment Television.
Yeah, but I guess okay. Like I knew what it meant, but I'm saying like, what is the like?
What's the wrestling equivalent here?
Yeah.
Black entertaining. Nothing. I got nothing.
I like how Dave has to clarify it's not Russo doing it.
It's just the guy who wants Russo to be brought back that's doing it.
But he's like, oh, it's a controversial, like, stupid idea. Let's say that it's Russo. Like, everyone's gonna think it's Russo. I have to specify that it's not.
And that is the news. Tell me, Liam, after that, like, 90 minutes on the news, how are you feeling?
I was really excited for the first third.
Yeah.
Then I felt a deep depression in my soul. But then, much like Kurt Angle, my soul told me to get the F up and let's get going, you know?
Yeah!
And now I'm ready for Vince Russo television. Let's skip the next month. Let's just go straight into it.
Let's just skip No Surrender.
Yeah.
No, I'm afraid you have to talk all about No Surrender. Which technically is a Vince Russo pay-per-view. He was Booker.
Yeah, there you go. I could tell.
You really can. It's not a hard shivot. It's not a hard
Shivot.
pivot. I combined shift and pivot into shivot.
I think you combine shit and pivot.
It's not a hard pivot, but there is a noticeable pivot.
Okay, we'll see how it goes.
That brings us to broad topics, starting with no world title program this month. We get Jeff Jarrett versus Samoa Joe instead.
A fine substitute.
Some would argue better.
Well, maybe without the stipulation.
So, we'll bury Jeff Jarrett at the start, I guess.
Yeah,
Jeff
sure.
Jarrett puts over Samoa Joe this month.
He sure does do that.
In a non-title match.
Where the entire point of the match is that many other people are beating the shit out of Jeff Jarrett.
At no point is it that Joe is the dominating force that kills Jeff Jarrett. It is all about 18 men are needed to help Samoa Joe beat Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, I don't think it's like a burial in a put over necessarily. Because I don't think Jarrett like looks particularly like he is outsmarting or even like beating Joe during the match. It just feels like a way of putting Joe over without putting Joe over. It's a way of putting Joe over without losing while still losing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it just takes the wind out of the sails more than an actual, like, more than it coming across bad. It's just like, it's more like, okay, that happened.
It in no way harms Joe, but ultimately also in no way helps him.
Yeah. He doesn't even, like, get, like, the boost of being, like, he beat Jarrett. It just kind of feels like nothing.
And it's kind of meant to be like a catharsis, because we'll get into it. The idea is it's fans' revenge. It's all after all the misdeeds of Jeff Jarrett, we're meant to get revenge, and it doesn't really feel like that.
They should have beat the shit out of him more.
Yeah, you like the honest revenge should have been just like Joe making Jarrett bleed buckets.
Yeah.
That is more satisfying to me than a random fan hitting him with a strap.
The stipulation should have been if Jarrett lost, all the fans got to take one swing.
They got to kick him in the balls once.
I meant with the strap, but yeah.
18 people walking up one after another, kicking Jeff Jarrett in the balls. So August 17th, Impact opens with what is meant to be the Jeff Jarrett Championship celebration after he retained the NWA World title against Sting following Christian Cage's betrayal at Hard Justice. But that's interrupted by a Styles and Daniels segment that we'll talk about when we're talking about Styles and Daniels. In the middle of that segment, Jarrett strolls out and he's mad because everybody is ruining his celebration. So he walks around the ring, he sets off to confetti that was at ringside while everyone is brawling. He starts drinking the champagne and then he poses before the lights go out. Sting arrives with a baseball bat. Jarrett looks concerned. Sting starts popping some balloons with his bat.
What a bastard.
Which is probably harder than it seems, because like balloons don't, like some balloons will break instantly on impact, but some might like squirm out of the way.
Yeah.
Or like the wind of swinging the bat at it might actually move it.
Jarrett is extremely funny here.
Yeah.
And like once again proving that he was a mid-card goof comedy heel that just went too far.
Yeah, the comedy bit of him just walking around, like setting off the confetti, drinking, being like, "You're ruining my celebration."
Like, he legitimately has, like, good comedic wrestling instincts.
Sting said Jarrett didn't beat him at the pay-per-view, Christian did. Sting demands a rematch at Bound for Glory. Jarrett's like, why the fuck would I do that? What's in it for me?
Things like, I'll do anything in the whole world for it. My favorite thing about this is, like, Sting's like, you didn't beat me, Christian Cage did, so I want to fight you.
That is the sole acknowledgement this month by Sting that Christian betrayed him.
Well, to be fair, Sting's not really here the rest of the month.
He doesn't care, though. He's like, fine. I have a path still to get this title, so I guess I don't give a fuck.
I'll send my good pal Rhino to sort it out.
Best friend Rhino, I heard. JB, later in the show, is outside Jarrett's locker room. Eric Young emerges. They want to know what each other is doing there, because, like, JB's like, why are you in his locker room? And then EY's like, but what are you doing here? Jarrett emerges, tells EY to get out of here. While it may have it meant his locker room, EY's like, when he said get out of here, did he mean, like, get out of TNA?
It's a hell of a leap. The most remarkable part of all this is that we're going to get another Jarrett EY month, and that's good stuff.
It's funny how, like, Planet Jarrett isn't a thing anymore. AMW have nothing to do with Jeff Jarrett anymore, but Eric Young still does.
I think Eric Young is just, like, nebulous and everywhere all at once.
I do love the idea that, like, of all the shit he gives him, of all the paranoia he has, the one thing Jarrett can never shake is any random offhand comment Eric Young ever says to him.
Yeah. He has, like, a fundamental belief in Eric Young's words that I do not understand.
EY does ponder if Jeff Jarrett is capable of firing him.
In shoot, yes.
He is.
In the canon universe of TNA, maybe? He probably pulls some strings.
With his old pal Larry Z, who he has once colluded with, now proven later in this month.
We will see how it develops.
Later in that show, the main event is Samoa Joe versus Ron Killings. There's a little feature before the match. There's kind of like, it's not a push for Ron because he loses all his matches, but he has 2 TV main events against stars this month, so it does seem there's a little bit of like, hey, look, you're wrestling Joe, you're wrestling Christian, don't be mad. Yes, you're losing, and yes, those matches mean nothing, but you're wrestling stars on TV.
I feel like when they have these big strings of TV that are like 6 weeks, they feel like they need to have something on the shows. Like, for this 6 weeks, it's like, there's either like a star main event, or Abyss is gonna do some plunder.
Yeah. So, simple match, Ron and Joe. Fun combination of people, just Ron and Joe. But nothing special. It's a pretty standard TV main event. Solid enough. Ron hits a big flip dive on the rail side to send us the break. I've always loved when, because like usually people do it on the announce table side where there's tons of space. So anytime somebody does like a dive on the rail side, I admire them for nearly killing their shins and or feet and or any part of their body. Truth goes up top. Joe kicks his legs out, falls with a muscle buster for the win. JB, backstage, is with Jarrett, pondering Sting's challenge earlier in the night. Jarrett thought, there's no way I'd accept. I just beat him. There's nothing in it for me. But then I had a notion.
I had the extremely obvious notion.
In response to Sting saying, I'm willing to give anything, I had the extremely obvious notion that I will answer your challenge with a challenge. I will give Sting the match, but only if it's title versus career at Bound for Glory. He gives Sting 1 week to deliver him a fully executed contract. If he loses, TNA contract must be terminated, his merchandise must be burned, and they have to ship away his face paint and bat.
I like that he's like, I want no trace. I don't even want the company to make money off him anymore.
It's like he was never here.
I just went and searched because I was curious, but R-Truth and Samoa Joe did have a TV match 12 years later, almost to the date.
That's wacky.
Because they had a match end of July 2018.
On like SmackDown?
Yeah.
Who won?
Honestly, this match looks better. Because they're just going for it.
It's weird to think like Ron was even in a position to have match. Like they don't book him in matches against guys like Joe.
It's just a squash. Samoa Joe wins with the Coquina clutch.
Damn, he beat him with the Muscle Buster in 2006.
The Muscle Buster was banned in WWE.
Oh yeah, it was banned after the Tyson Kidd incident though, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that was like early on. That was NXT.
Was that early?
Yeah, it was an NXT like house show or whatever.
It's always weird to me when they ban moves like that. Like this dude has been doing that move for fucking 20 years.
Yeah, and The problem was that you gave Tyson Kidd no notice that he had to go wrestle, and then he had to go do it, like, without stretching or warm or anything.
It's like it went wrong in the way wrestling usually goes wrong. It's not the move. It's so rarely the move.
Yeah, but, like, you know, they have to save face.
August 24th Impact, we had a recap of the Jarrett versus Sting stuff. We're going to roll in all, like, the Earl, Larry, and EY stuff into this, because it all kind of ties together.
Also, there's, like, no point not to tie it all in.
Or talk about it by itself, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, you might as well just wrap it all into one thing.
There was a recap of the Earl and Larry story. If you don't remember, Earl Hebner has returned looking destitute and homeless and accusing Larry Zbyszko of hanging him out to dry and being like making him the fall man for everything that happened at Slammiversary, while Larry only got a modest demotion.
A modest emotion is a very funny descriptor, though.
Yeah, he was used to be like the head of TNA's championship committee, and now he's
a guy who has some power?
Yeah, it's pretty nebulous what he is doing, but he's below Jim Cornette. He's a man below Jim Cornette. This feature includes B-roll of Earl Hebner sleeping next to a trash can.
How did they get that footage?
Yeah, it's kind of rude that like a cameraman walked up, filmed him sleeping there, and didn't like help him.
I like to imagine they didn't even know it was Earl.
It's just, what's this dude doing here? Homelessman.mp4 in the TNA video library.
Exactly. And they're like, oh shit.
JB has Larry Z. Larry says Earl lost his job and then lost his mind and because gas is $9 a gallon, Larry tells us. I'm not sure what the connective tissue there is, but he can't afford gas.
Well, he has no money.
JB brings up the Slammiversary conspiracy. Larry denies any involvement, and Jarrett would volunteer for a polygraph to prove it. Cornette needs to answer for why Earl was fired. Larry says Slick should be fired because he hates Slick, and don't we all hate Slick?
I concur.
EY pops up, hearing all of this fired talk.
Hey, you guys talking about being fired?
I do love that he's like the Joe Hendry, but for the word fired.
They should do a twist on this angle where, like, Eric Young really wants to get fired, but can't.
He realizes there's, like, a clause in his contract that gives him $1 million payout if he's fired. And he's like, fuck, I really want to get fired. And he keeps, like, bumbling his way into doing good things.
That'd be a good bit. Please fire Eric.
That'd be a better t-shirt, unless you're named Eric. Larry's annoyed and says EY has a match next week, and if he loses, he might be out of here. And EY simply says, his hair is so majestic. Is he mad at me? Because Larry's still wearing a wig.
It's majestic.
We have a feature on Sting. He accepts Jarrett's offer and says, if this is the end of me, so be it. He's going to go away for a while. Jeff can't even comprehend where he's going to go as they show like photos of the different years of Sting. Sting signs the contract and Sting will disappear into training until Bound for Glory.
I have no clue what change is going to be. Like, is this just like he just comes back where he has like little red bits in his paint now?
Sure is.
What a difference. What a metamorphosis we're witnessing for Sting.
He does come back in really good shape.
Alright. Maybe he was just working out real hard for 5 weeks.
Like that is the thing that like if you're going to disappear, if this is going to be the gimmick, like obviously you should come back somewhat transformed instead of like
yeah, you're getting on the gas.
Yeah, red tinted gear. But at least he does come back looking like in world champion main event shape.
I appreciate him having that amount of respect for it all, I guess.
We're not at t-shirt Sting yet.
T-shirt Sting rules.
We come back to Mike Tenay, who has the contract that Sting has signed. The contract has been signed by Steve Borden, aka Sting. Jarrett comes out, he grabs the contract, and he says, we're going to execute it next week, alright? We're going to have a public execution of this contract by Jarrett next week.
This screams as if Jeff Jarrett only learnt that you execute a contract this week. And he's like, whoa, I got some wordplay for this.
As in, like, in the booking committee?
Yeah.
He's sitting there in that meeting. It's like, so we have to have, Sting and Jarrett execute the contract. And then Jarrett's like, execute, you say?
What is that? Wait, what do you mean by that?
It's like, you sign it, you execute a contract. Execute, you say? The Pokemon.
Oh boy, do I have an idea.
Next show, August 31st, Eric Young wrestles Shark Boy.
Shark Boy just, like, sporadically appears, huh?
Yeah, just doing jobs. Occasionally teaming with Norman Smiley.
Doing jobs.
EY bites Shark Boy's ass after Shark Boy fails to bite EY's ass, which a Shark Boy does sell because he respects his own gimmick.
Also would hurt.
Yeah, I guess this is the instance where, unlike Shark Boy, who has a thing covering his mouth, EY is actually biting Shark Boy's ass, I guess. Larry Z appears at ringside. EY wins with the wheelbarrow neckbreaker. Earl Hebner tries to attack Slick Johnson, who was the referee of this match, after the match, as Larry Z calms him down. He says he's not taking a bullet for Larry, he's not taking the fall for Jarrett, and he's going to tell the world.
Who gives a shit about any of this?
This thing happened at this point 3 months ago.
But, like, it's just, who cares? Like, who cares? Who cares about referee stories?
You don't want referees held accountable?
It just makes no sense.
We have a feature on Jarrett and Sting. Jarrett comes to the ring with a firing squad and a noose in the ring, as well as a tombstone that says R.I.P. Sting.
They really love hanging this month.
Yeah, that's another thing they feel like they discovered.
I feel like they bought, like, the noose. And they're like, well, we gotta use it.
We gotta hang some stuff off of it.
Otherwise, like, what's the point?
It cost us like $800. We gotta justify this.
Exactly.
How much does a noose go for?
I don't know.
I guess you also have to have the mechanisms to hang the noose. I've never been an executioner, I don't know.
I feel like in another world, that'd be me.
Jarrett shouts that there's nothing the crowd can do about him being champion, so a man throws a bottle at him. Jarrett then has security eject him. This man ended up being one of the ringside guys in the fans' revenge match, so it was a plant, but... Jarrett says capital punishment is alive and well on Planet Jarrett. He rambles for a while about the ways in which he could kill Sting. He executes the contract. A man in the crowd has Jarrett is greater than smart internet fans as a sign. Proof that any sign and or tweet and or anything that ever includes the greater than or less than sign is obnoxious and annoying, and I hate it. It will be officially title versus career at Bound for Glory. The man keeps going on and on about nothing because he loves nothing more than going on and on about absolutely nothing at all. So we've been mentioning for a few months now, I'm not sure how many times we mentioned it, but we mentioned it at least a couple times, that on the announce desk, anytime they cut to Mike Tenay and Don West, there is a big red phone. This big red phone has never rung. It has never been rung. It has never been acknowledged by Mike or Don. There is simply a big red phone sitting in the middle of the desk.
I like to think of it, it's like some sort of TNA hotline.
But surely they would acknowledge it. It's just been there. And I was like, what's the deal with the phone?
I don't know.
After like 5 months, we finally have a payoff. The phone finally rings. Jarrett is rambling forever. The phone rings, and it is James E. Cornette, and he would like to speak to Jeff Jarrett. So they transfer the phone line into the house speakers so that everybody can hear. Cornette's on the phone and he wants to talk to Jarrett. He's sick of Jarrett, so he says Jarrett will face a polygraph test next week. If he passes, then he will get the same opportunity that Sting has to take until Bound for Glory off so that he can come into Bound for Glory like in peak condition. Which, as like booker of the show or whatever, as authority figure of the show, the idea that your two top stars aren't going to be on the show for like 6 weeks seems like a bad idea.
For the guy that's like, big ratings, big blah 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 blah, like, that's his whole thing.
Yeah, all I want is TV ratings, pay-per-view buys, and good matches, but not my two biggest stars on my show for a month.
I don't know.
But if Jarrett's caught in a single lie, the fans will have an opportunity to punish Jarrett personally.
You can argue that he's probably just really confident that he's going to get caught in a single lie.
Yeah, there's no way Jeff Jarrett has been innocent and pure through this whole process.
It would have been a really great bit if Jarrett just was completely innocent of everything.
And like legit.
Yeah.
It turned out to be like the kind of passive, soft collusion and corruption where Larry Z kind of did it to curry favor with Jarrett without Jarrett's knowing.
Yeah, like it's like, you know how like Domino, like her power is just everything, it like works out for her?
Yeah.
It's like Jarrett actually didn't like do anything and everything just worked out perfectly for him.
Jeff Jarrett just like, the worst you can say is he made some suggestions to Larry Z. He said like, Larry Z, make sure this works out, because he did. There was some of those segments where he was like, Larry Z, this will be hell to pay. Like, that's the worst you can catch him on, like making vague threats.
That would have been a good bit.
So September 7th Impact, it's all about the lie detector test. JB has Jarrett. Jarrett will be taking the polygraph later tonight. Eric Young sneaks into frame. He has now dyed his hair darker. So we have no more blonde Eric Young.
It's really bad.
It doesn't look great, does it?
I don't know why they did it.
It's weird because like his natural hair color is brown, because he does have brown hair later in his career and it looks fine.
Yeah, they went like super dark with it.
Yeah, it's like weirdly dyed kind of black, and it doesn't look very good at all. I wonder, is it just because like he's standing next to Jarrett and they don't want like two blonde people?
I don't know. Maybe they think like the dyed blonde is like too heelish.
EY informs Jarrett that his Uncle Leo up in Canada has never failed a polygraph test.
He's also never taken one.
That is a question Jarrett does not ask. I too, Garrett Kidney, have never failed a polygraph test.
I can also say that.
They're setting up the polygraph for later tonight. Then we come to the segment. Jarrett is starting the polygraph from Dr. Tim Redmond. And I was wondering, is that a reference? So I googled Dr. Tim Redmond, and there is a Dr. Tim Redmond in Grey's Anatomy, which started airing in 2005. So that's what I can only assume it's a reference to.
That's very funny.
EY says this is all about nerves, and he knows a thing or two about nerves. So Jarrett's like sipping a drink, he's smoking. The idea is like trying to calm the nerves. They say like, you know, he had like pegs on his toes and all that shit. You know, the fake polygraph tricks and tips. JB is like, is this a good idea? And then Jarrett's like, JB, have you ever passed the polygraph test on like Uncle Leo? And JB's like, no. So it's like, you shut up.
He brings a valid point.
The doctor tries to ask like baseline questions like what's his name, and EY keeps interrupting him and telling Jarrett to plead the fifth commandment, which is probably thou shalt not kill. I don't know. You went to Jesus school, you should know the commandments.
Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long in the land that your Lord, your God, is giving you.
That's 5?
Yeah, honor thy father and mother.
That's what he's pleading. He loves Jarrett. He wants to respect Jerry.
Hellenistic Jews, Greek Orthodox, and Protestants example. But as I was in a Lutheran school, the fifth command is thou shalt not kill.
Oh, I was right.
That it is more accurately translated as thou shalt not murder.
Some killing is fine.
Yeah. In self-defense, thou must kill.
Later in the show, JB informs us the polygraph has been concluded. Jarrett walks out, says he's innocent, and he's taking EY out tonight. You have a job for life, and Uncle Leo should be proud of his nephew.
But I really thought they were going to do the segment like in the ring with the guy like giving the thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah, I guess it probably would have been a pain to set it up, and maybe they thought it would have been like a conceptually harder segment to sell to a live audience.
It's really good that my sick seems to be exclusively my throat in this talking podcast.
You don't need the throat that much, you're fine. I'm not sure how much of Liam being ill I will edit it out, but I think it's worth noting we recorded the news and this part 8 hours apart, so if Liam sounds much sicker than he did during the news, it's not because this podcast is slowly killing him.
I bring the boom.
So yeah, he's like, oh, I'm gonna bring you out tonight, your Uncle Leo should be proud. Now he gets to go away and get spooky like Sting. And then the polygraph man just walks out and shakes his head.
What does he mean by that shake of the head?
Could mean anything.
Also, why is the polygraph man invested?
He's a TNA fan. He's sick of this Tyler Ren as much as we are.
Or maybe he's just like, he's dishonoring my profession by blatantly cheating in front of me.
I will say, those men seemed really annoying if you're a polygraph test administrator.
But like, I guess legally he's allowed to try and cheat because like it's not an actual court ordered thing.
No, there is no science. Well, there's not no science to it, but the science behind it is extremely faulty.
But it's like, I guess like Cornette could have just walked in the room and been like, "Hey, stop cheating in front of me and on the show in front of everyone. To take your pegs off."
So, main event segment, Cornette comes to the ring. He books Christian versus Rhino for no surrender, but we'll talk about that in a minute. EY comes out with Jarrett and gets jumped by the pyro. Because Jarrett gets more pyro than EY does, so it's much scarier to him. Cornette points out that the polygraph test is not admissible in court and can be beaten. So why we're doing this, who knows? So he has a series of questions. The first of which, was there collusion with Christian Cage at Hard Justice? Jeff Jarrett said no. Polygraph says true. No collusion.
Well, that's what Christian said.
Yeah, so Christian did make that decision in the match. Christian's not a liar either. Question number 2. Was there collusion with Earl Hebner at Slammiversary? Answer is no. Polygraph says true. No collusion again. Mike and Don are very skeptical of this one.
I was skeptical of this one.
And the third and final question. All of this, just ask 3 questions, by the way. But third and final question. Has he conspired at any point with Larry Zbyszko to influence match outcomes and keep the title? Jarrett answered no, and it turns out he's a damn liar. So this is, technically, I think, the payoff to Raven losing the NWA World title 12 months ago.
But even then it could not be, because the phrasing was influence match outcomes to keep the title, and he won the title in that match.
Yeah. And it says at any point, so it could have been one of the other times he colluded with Larry Z to keep the title.
So every title defense.
But I do think this is kind of intended to be the proof that finally he did in fact collude with Larry to get that title shot against Raven and fuck everybody
in a
over.
thing that like 3 people remember.
That was even technically, well, it was at the start of the Spike run, but it happened before Spike. Jarrett chases EY out of the ring because he's mad that their tactics didn't work. Cornette books a fans' revenge match at the pay-per-view, where there will be 18 lumberjacks with straps, all of whom will be fans. Jarrett's opponent in that match will be Samoa Joe.
It really feels like Joe's just here because he's like scary. Like there's not like any build to Joe being the guy here. Like Cornette's just picking a guy that he thinks will kick Jarrett's ass.
Because it's really interesting that like they consciously didn't turn Joe babyface with the Sting angle in May. Like, they consciously did the angle where Steiner and Jarrett attack Sting after the match, and Joe walks away. So they kept Joe kind of heel after that, and then booked him as a babyface afterwards.
Yeah.
Because, like, he's a babyface in the Steiner match. He's, I guess, kind of nebulous in the Monty and Rhino stuff. He's just Samoa Joe. And, like, obviously here he is transparently a babyface.
Yeah.
So it's weird that they kind of refused to do the turn and then just kind of did it anyway. But yeah, Cornette leaves the fans and chanting, "Joe's gonna kill you." And Jarrett is very mad, both at the fans' revenge and at Eric Young and at Wrestling Samoa Joe.
I wouldn't like to wrestle Samoa Joe, so that's fair.
He would beat the shit out of me. September 14th, Impact. Larry is shouting at Eric Young. Yeah, Jarrett walks in wearing a backwards cap. He's very mad at Eric Young for giving him all that bad advice. He's sending, once again, he's not like, "I'm cutting you loose, I'm done with you." Instead, he's sending Eric Young on another mission. This time to find Sting, find what he's up to, and get a scouting report. So this man has not learned one thing whatsoever about sending people to secretly record Sting.
I was gonna say, here's a guy who has, like, proof of being good at this.
But you see, Sting knows that guy's coming. Eric Young will be disarming.
But then Eric Young goes and gets Shelly anyway.
Yes, he does. Because EY only knows one guy who can do this. And then Jarrett is like, "Larry, I don't know what stroke you've got left around here, but whatever you've got, use it to get me out of the fans' revenge match."
So now they're openly colluding.
Yeah, you've been caught. Why not?
They're like, yeah, they already got us.
Why that doesn't lead to Larry being fired? No idea.
He said he's gonna have a closed-door meeting with him.
Later in the show, Eric Young does grab Alex Shelley to go on a filming expedition.
The next match.
We do also get a feature requesting that fans submit their videos about their hatred of Jeff Jarrett, and this one has some comments from fans that were filmed like at the Impact Zone quite clearly, including a child who says he's like, "I want to punch Jeff Jarrett."
Which is awesome. Get him in the match.
All the kids should get to beat up Jeff Jarrett and also kick him in the balls. That's canon. So Cornette is in the ring for what they call the very first town hall meeting in TNA history, even though he's done a segment like this 3 times. I think the thing they mean that by is the ring is surrounded by fans, so I think that's what they mean by like town hall.
Yeah.
So here he requests submissions from Jarrett haters to whip him at the pay-per-view. Cornette says last week exonerated Earl Hebner because he's easily swayed and just fell in with the wrong crowd, so he's reinstated.
Which again, I even if you believe that, like, he's a referee. That's like a very negative aspect for him to have as an official.
Yeah, it's like he's like, listen, it wasn't conscious corruption. It was just he's very easily manipulated. So yeah, he can still be a referee. I would honestly prefer people that are consciously corrupt rather than like can be maliciously influenced.
Like, even if it's not malicious, it's still like very bad.
Larry, however, has not been cleared. As he said, there's going to be a closed-door meeting with Larry in the near future. The special guest of the meeting is Samoa Joe. Joe has been tasked with making Jarrett pay for his crimes against the fans. Larry Z's music hits. And I was like, whose music is that? And it turns out it's Larry Z's. And I don't think I've ever heard it before. And Larry Z wrestled like a month ago, but I don't think this is the song he came out to.
I would never be able to remember.
Larry's mad, thinks he's like, I was doing a great job and then you came along and ruined everything. I demand you take Jeff Jarrett out of this match. It's ridiculous, it's terrible, it's the worst. Larry refuses to leave the ring, so Joe whips him a little bit. Jarrett appears, and then Jarrett starts whipping a female fan as Mike Tenay screams multiple times at the top of his lungs, "That's a woman!"
Mike Tenay would be fine if he was whipping a male fan.
Yeah, it's like, listen, fair. Man-on-man violence, but woman? That's a woman, Liam.
That's a woman.
That's a woman.
That's a woman.
Warrior.
That's a warrior.
September 14th Impact starts with Jarrett in the ring. There's so many Jarrett promos this month and I want to die in all of them.
Like, they're all kind of okay.
This time, he's welcoming us to Jarrett SVU, which stands for Special Victims Unit, like the television show. starring Marissa Hargitay and Chris Maloney. You a big Law and Order fan?
Sure.
Have you ever watched the Law and Order?
This is the one that goes dun dun.
Yep.
Yeah, I like the dun dun. Yeah, that.
Good theme song.
Yeah, good theme song.
Law and Order SVU also has one of those unique things at the moment where it is the longest running continuous drama show or whatever on television at the moment.
Eat shit Monday Night Raw.
Yeah. Jarrett then outlines all the various ways in which he has been a victim. After whining for a while, he's looking for his first victim of his new era of new Jeff Jarrett ass kicking, I guess, which is Samoa Joe. Joe's music hits, they brawl for a while. Jarrett then attacks a fan and straps him. They brawl through the crowd.
Jarrett's really making it worse for himself by continuously beating fans.
The funny thing is, if you think back, the angle to get him out of the King of the Mountain match at Slammiversary 2005, where Raven won the belt, was that Jarrett, during the pre-show, attacked a fan.
Yeah, and now I guess the idea is, like, maybe this is him trying to get out of the Joe match with a suspension of some sort. But,
if fans can attack him, he should be able to attack fans. I think it's only fair.
That is the universal law of entertainment.
They brawl through the crowd for a while. Joe whips Jarrett a little bit, but then Jarrett finds his guitar behind the ring post, swings it back, knocks Joe over with the guitar. Well, hits him with it. Knocks him over with it is a funny way of putting that. Joe blades as Jarrett chokes him with the guitar.
One of Jarrett's best bits is, like, hiding guitars like John Wick hides weapons. Like, just having guitars taped around the building.
Yeah. The match where he had them, like, hidden under stairs and hidden under the ring. Remember that one?
Yeah.
This is December 21st, Impact, by the way. I said 14th earlier. This is the go-home show. So they show us short clips of a bunch of the Jeff Jarrett hater videos. A bunch of the I hate Jeff Jarrett videos.
You tell a wrestling fan to cut a damn promo and it's the same thing every time.
It is like, I'm going to make you pay it. No surrender, Jeff Jarrett. They all
Listen here, Jeff Jarrett. You've been fucking up. I can't swear. That would have been better.
Yeah. Some of them get a little kinky.
One of them particularly.
Yeah, there's two women who have like straps. It's like, I'd love to strap you, Jeff Jarrett.
My favorite guy is the guy who like does his own editing.
Oh yeah, some of them do have actual editing done with like effects and B-roll. It's very impressive. And then there's the weird guy who's like wearing some kind of like butler suit and white gloves.
Yeah, because he's bringing class to this whipping.
If you would like to see all these for yourself, I put them together into a little comp in the show notes. So if you go to the September 21st Impact, you should be able to find them there. There's a link to all of those in the show notes, so you can watch them all for yourself. They are, as you said, exactly what you would expect if you asked wrestling fans to do promos like this in 2006, or probably any time ever.
Yeah, and I do ask anyone listening to please cut your own I hate Jeff Jarrett promo and add us on X, the Everything app, or Blue Sky.
Yeah, please share your I hate Jeff Jarrett promos.
In the exact same style, preferably.
Eric Young faces Norman Smiley. We're repeating bits from earlier in the year here, because Eric Young has a tape down his trunks once again.
I mean, it's, like, fun. Like, they do some wacky comedy, baby.
Yeah, it's nice to see Norman get to do some actual wrestling. He doesn't get to do much of it.
He only got to do about 2 minutes of it, to be fair.
But there's like some nice in and out of holds here. He doesn't just get squashed. He just gets to do some holds and then get squashed. The tape does pop out at one point after EY kicks out of a butterfly suplex, but EY wins with a wheelbar neckbreaker and then marches the tape to the back. He finds Jeremy Borash, and he's like, JB, I got this tape, and I need it to get to Jeff Jarrett. And JB's like, I can help that for you by airing it on the television show.
And Eric Young's like, JB, don't fuck me here, okay?
Yeah. Because Jeff Jarrett left the building after he had attacked Joe earlier in the show. And then he's like, I really need this to get to Jarrett. And JB's like, I can do that for you. And the next segment is like, I gave it to the truck. We're going to play it. So JB goes to the truck. He gives them the tape. They play it. It's a montage of Eric Young trying to find Sting.
Yeah.
He has a series of signs, one of which says, Sting, it's me, stop. To which Shelley quips from off camera, you know what I did? I just went to his house. Which is really funny. He's EY is doing like man on the street bits with fans. And he's like, do you know Sting? And the fan is like, Sting from the Police? And then EY is like, Sting got arrested? EY has an assortment of other signs, but he is not a particularly good detective or private eye, and he cannot find Sting. And then the kind of go home angle for all of this. So Joe got bloodied after he got hit with a guitar. So
It's like fucking sick. It's like It's like, we did 6 weeks of fucking shite. And then we just decide, hey, Joe, make it into a wrestling match again.
So JB is with Joe. Joe's still bleeding. He talks about how this started as vengeance for the fans. Now it's vengeance for him. And for every drop of his blood spilled, he'll spill buckets of Jarrett's. Joe is gonna kill him. Joe is gonna kill him. Joe is gonna kill him. He has bled, but Jarrett will die.
It's so fucking sick.
The show accidentally trips and falls into being a pro wrestling show for a moment, and it's awesome.
That's how it always goes. It always, like, accidentally does a wrestling.
Yeah. And this is one of those promos from a guy like Joe that if you sat there and watched this, you produced this month of TV, you saw this promo in the edit, and you're thinking about what direction should we go? How is it not, fuck, that's the guy. That's so the guy.
Yeah.
Drives me crazy. Then No Surrender. Mike Tenay here mentions that we will have an announcement that will rewrite the history of pro wrestling, so that's the first we hear about the current announcement. Eric Young defeats A1 in, I knew you said E1. EY defeats A1 in the opening contest of No Surrender, a match that comes from nowhere.
I think it's just... Don't they do Eric, you better win this thing again? Or was that last pay-per-view as well? It's the same thing every time. I know they did it on TV, but I thought they did it again on pay-per-view.
No, because that was the Norman Smiley match, is the one that Larry was like, you're in a match next week, I think. Or the Shark Boy match, one or the other.
I think it was the Shark Boy match.
Either way, EY won both. This is a match. Eric Young comes out with his crew, chanting, "Don't fire Eric," with signs.
I assumed it was the crew that was going to beat the shit out of Jarrett later, and I was like, Eric!
He's on their side,
This is your guy.
Betrayal of Jeff Jarrett. A1 cuts him off with a power slam. EY hits an elbow. A1 tries to put his feet in the ropes that catches it. EY repositions an A1 tombstone into a wheelbarrow neckbreaker for the win.
It was really impressive.
Yeah. A1's a big guy.
They did, like, the ROH tombstone position switch, too.
Did Undertaker technically steal that from indie wrestling?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I don't know, he probably did it really early. But, like, as far as, like, the cool ones, which is, like, the cartwheel.
They show a montage of fans doing, like, tests of strength and practice whipping a dummy hanging Jeff Jarrett.
It's a good bit.
To determine who would be the fans. To determine where are they good enough to whip him. JB has Cornette. Cornette is hyped about tonight's big announcement. The announcement will be made by a wrestler not even on tonight's card. So Jeff Jarrett gets, Jeff Jarrett was coming into the show, Liam, and he didn't have a thing to be conspiratorial about, to cut a promo being like, who's it going to be? He didn't really have that this month, and they finally given it to him here. So his one story continues.
Thank God.
Later in the show, JB has Jarrett. Jarrett is wearing like 5 shirts to add layers, so when the strap, it doesn't really hurt. He's paranoid about the announcement. He's like, what a cheap, carny trick. We all know the announcement. It's been leaked. It's about Spike TV in prime time. And you're going to charge $29.95 for that? Ugh. Worried about the thing Cornette said about the wrestler not being on tonight's card. And he's like, Sting's not on tonight's card. It's going to be Sting, isn't it? It's Sting. I'm sick of that Sting guy.
He's really preoccupied with Sting constantly. This man needs to develop a healthy relationship.
Yeah, move on. Sting's not even around here. He doesn't go here at the moment.
He's not thinking of you.
He's off, like, lifting heavy things.
Heavy stings.
EY walks up. Jarrett tells him to go away. EY wants to help, so Jarrett's like, fine. Check every door, every building, every part of the building. Find me Sting. We only get one segment of EY searching for Sting, and he's like, this is Sting's car. I swear it's Sting's car. And it turns out LAX are trying to steal the car, and they scare Eric away.
No. It doesn't actually. It doesn't reveal that Alex tried to steal the car. EY just goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were trying to steal this car."
You raise a good point.
Eric Young's just racist.
Yes, he is. Conan does a promo of the tag title match. Package on Fans Revenge. As Fans Revenge starts, as Jarrett's doing his entrance, he's doing the big dramatic build-up backstage.
Wee whoop, wee whoop.
You have the slow, dramatic instrumental version of Jarrett's theme. EY walks up and he's like, I searched everywhere, Sting's not here. And Jarrett's like, hey, did you search the rafters? And EY's like, no. He was scared because there was a fire there last month.
Yeah.
So Jarrett sends him off to search the rafters, and that is the last we see of EY. So maybe he did die in a fire in the rafters. So then we get the match. Samoa Joe
It's a
versus
ghost
Jeff Jarrett
scenario.
in a fans' revenge match with 18 fans around ringside with straps. They were mostly, I believe, plants from a local wrestling school or wrestling indie in Florida. I think there was some like shoot fans in there because there was at one point one guy who enthusiastically ran the entire circle of the ring attempting to get his shots in on Jarrett, and I can't imagine that was anything but a fan.
Yeah. I've always heard, I always heard that there was people in there.
Because there is like the lady he strapped on Impact and the dude who threw the bottle are both there. So like there is plants. It's not like, but I think it's a mix. I do think it's a mix.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the match? You like the match?
Yeah, like it's fine. It's not like some like big in-ring epic. It is just like a gimmick. Like it is a match that like shouldn't be a main event of a pay-per-view, but like for what it is, it's fine.
Yeah, it's a good TV attraction, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't even mind on like the mid-card of a pay-per-view, but just, yeah.
Because there is a note that at one point, Styles and Daniels versus LAX was slotted for the main event.
Yeah, I would have done it that way.
And I wonder, is the thing that changed that signing Kurt?
Yeah, but like, you could have sort of just done that after the tag.
But I guess, yeah, you could have had Jim Cornette go out there to make the announcement and Jarrett interrupts him. So, like, Jarrett could have just come out.
And Jarrett got like I'd have survived 20 people promo.
So, yeah, the story of this main event, Jarrett has all those t-shirts, so he can't get whipped properly. And Samoa Joe slowly removes the t-shirts, and he gets whipped more. Joe ties Jarrett to the ropes as all the fans come in and take their shot. Referees get rid of him. Joe gets Jarrett in the coquina clutch at one point, and Jarrett reaches the ropes, which felt kind of wrong to me. The idea that Joe is not just eating him alive.
That's the thing, like, it's just a match. Like, the story should be like any moment that Jarrett isn't in the ring, he's getting destroyed. And then, like, his only respite is to, like, make it to the floor where he then gets whipped.
Yeah. Whereas there's like a period where he gets a heat segment on Joe for a while, and like, no one wants that.
Yeah.
So Joe pushes the referee, which allows Jarrett to hit a stroke onto the guitar, but Joe kicks out, which is, I think, the first time he's ever done that.
Yeah. I don't recall it.
Maybe not the first, but he doesn't do it very often. And you would think, like, that's his finish and that's his signature weapon. Those are two things he should probably combine more often.
It's probably hard to do.
Joe pins Jarrett with the Muscle Buster. Joe takes the NWA World title off the belt and leaves with it. I think you would kind of miss if you weren't watching closely. Like, you would notice, but, like, it's not the point of the end of the show because Cornette comes out so fast. It's kind of like a quick beat that happens rather than like, I feel like Joe taking the title and leaving should be a bigger part of that, but I guess they were running out of time or whatever, and they had an announcement to make. So Cornette comes out, announces that his announcement is that TNA will move to prime time on Thursdays starting November 16th. Crowd go crazy, and Jarrett's like, oh, that's fine. And he's like, you think that's the announcement? That's just an announcement. That's my announcement. Here's the announcement.
Goldberg.
You do hear a small smattering of Goldberg chants in response to thinking that's the big announcement.
And they think they're so fucking cool. And they start seeing a bald man on the TV and they still don't. Like, they're like, aha, it is Goldberg.
They see the silhouette of a bald man and it's like, oh, it's Goldberg. But before it is revealed to be Kurt Angle.
And then everyone goes fucking nutto.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, there's clips of both the Impact Zone, which is like mobile phone footage from 2006. And like part of it is like the audio is crazy, so like any noise causes it to spike. But the combination of that technology and the noise the crowd were making at the announcement of Kurt, awesome. And then there's also some footage of Mike and Don responding, because they go off the air with the video. They show the video and they're off the air, but there is some footage go to, I think it was in like a documentary at one point TNA put out, of like Mike and Don immediately following that, just responding to it, because as we talked about, Mike TNA did not know. So like the reveal, Mike TNA goes full Mickey Mouse. I actually might put the audio of it here, just so people can hear it. But Mike TNA goes like the highest pitch I have ever heard that man go in response to this news.
Oh my God!
You've got to be kidding me!
Holy Christ!
That's freaking unbelievable, Vital!
I don't believe it! Kurt Angle's coming to TNA!
No
God!
freaking way!
My God!
Listen to this crowd! Kurt Angle! Yeah!
He's very much into it. And, I mean, it shows, like, even the people who didn't know were, like, clearly, like, this is a big deal.
Because, like, Christian, you know, good get, really important to TNA at the time, was a WWE mid-carder.
It's Christian.
Sting, good get, real star, main event guy, back end of his career.
Also, main event guy 5 years ago.
Yeah, so you get Christian, who is like cool to get, but he's not a top guy. And Sting is cool to get, but he's clearly on the downside of his career. Whereas Kurt's like the combination of cool to get, top guy, might fall apart at any given moment. Let's ignore that bit.
But like top guy still on TV now.
Yeah, guy in his prime, at his peak, arguably. Maybe not physically, but certainly as a name. And yeah, that's fans' revenge.
And we've also done the whole Kurt thing already.
Yeah, we talked about the video when we talked about him coming to TNA. That takes us over to the next heavyweight program, which is Christian versus Rhino, coming off the back of Christian screwing Sting. That may not make sense, but we'll talk about it.
Well, Rhino and Sting are just best buds.
They're best of friends. They've been established as... I guess Rhino was on the Lethal Lockdown team, so there's not no connection.
I like the... this is kind of like going into the promo that we're about to talk about, but it's like, Rhino's like, Christian, I just don't believe that you do this. And then it's like, have you watched a single second of Christian's career? All he does is betray the people closest to him.
It's his favorite thing to do.
It's like if there's one guy in pro wrestling that you talk about betraying your friends, it's Christian's like number one.
He does it over and over again.
And it works out every time for him?
Yeah. So they do recap the Christian turn. Then they show a segment from after Hard Justice that didn't air in the pay-per-view where Rhino confronted Christian after the match. Christian's like, trust me, I did it for you, I did it for everybody, you just gotta believe me.
And they're like, why, Christian, why?
Yeah, Christian's not in the building on week 1, but we do have a feature from him. He says that people are saying they could see it from a mile away, like it was a master plan.
Which again, we could. You just, even if you weren't planning on it, you did everything to make you feel like you were planning on it.
He says it was actually a game time decision. He neutralized Steiner, he hit Jarrett with a chair, he gave a belt to Sting, and Sting still couldn't get the job done. What did Sting want him to do? Put the face paint on and wrestle the match for him himself? And then he quips, at least then he would have won.
Christian's such a good, heel.
The transformation in the man overnight with the heel turn is really night and day. Again, not that the babyface run was terrible, but this man is so much more comfortable as just a smarmy heel.
Yeah.
He says he talks about how he was jealous because he came in as the big acquisition, and then right after he came in, Sting showed up to take his spotlight. Sting had so many chances and couldn't get the job done. Then pivots to talk about Rhino, who is his brother, and when he sits down and talks to Rhino, Rhino will understand. Sting's like, I couldn't be here this week because I wanted to let cooler heads prevail, but I'll be there live in the Impact Zone next week. And he also points out he never got his rematch against Jarrett. He wasn't even pinned in King of the Mountain. So he's been screwed, and he's taken it's a new era of TNA. It's the Christian Cage era. So following week, we get another recap of the turn, and then Christian comes out. He's sitting on a chair in the middle of the ring in a spotlight. Christian is here, like he promised, unlike that liar Sting, who said he'd win the NWA title and fails. Talks about how Sting is a man of God, but the only God is Christian Cage. And Don is like, what a sacrilegious statement. Big opposer of blasphemy.
His name is Christian, to be fair.
Yeah, he is a man of faith.
Have I ever told you the story about how I tried to relate to one of my Christian teachers growing up with Christian the wrestler?
No.
Oh, God. Yeah, I was just like, hey, I like wrestling. He's like, yeah, cool, whatever, idiot, basically. And I was like, hey, is there a called Christian? And he's like, is that part of his thing? And I was like, no, not really.
He had some crosses for a while in his gear. That's about it.
Yeah, he had operatic singing.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt very embarrassed immediately after saying it.
Did you say it in front of a group?
No, it was 1-on-1.
Okay, that's not as bad.
I would never talk about wrestling to the group.
That's fair. Rhino confronts Christian about what he did at Hard Justice. Christian is like, I know that you and Sting, you go way back. When you broke your neck and Sting was at the hospital when you got out of surgery, I was like, no wait, that was me. And I know I called you every week when you were recovering like a cripple, he says to him. When Rhino was overseas, his wife called and threatened to take his child and leave him. Christian was the one that was there for him. But if Sting's relationship is that important to him, fine.
I kind of think Christian's right.
He's a little bit right.
And also, I know it's wrestling like history like just gets forgotten very quickly.
Mm.
But like, Rhino, you're the guy that would like whose whole thing was pile driving women.
Yeah.
Like, where is your like? You don't get to be the morality police for Christian.
No. And what Christian did wasn't even that bad. He just screwed a guy.
Yeah, like in pro wrestling, that's like what you do every third person.
You just hit him with one guitar.
Exactly. Like, it's perfectly acceptable.
Christian is like, fine. You want to deal with it? Deal with it. Here's a chair. Do it. Hit me. You want to flush 10 years of friendship down the drain? You do it. Fine. It's like, are you really that mad about Sting? Or are you mad that I have a bigger house and a better car and I became a bigger star?
I was like, that kind of... I really like this whole segment. Like, for them having to make, like, them having to justify that, or, like, continue the story on without Sting, to immediately pivot to, like, something super personal was, like, a good way of making you forget that they're, like, not doing the Sting thing.
Yeah, because, like, well, if you sat down and thought about it, it's a good point that, like, it doesn't make sense that the follow-up to Christian screwing Sting is not Christian versus Sting. But if you actually watch the show, it doesn't really feel that way. You do kind of get drawn into this story because, as you said, it's a personal thing. It's a proper beef.
Yeah.
Rhino throws the chair down and says, Christian's like, well, it looks like I'm the only one with a set of balls. But then Rhino responds that he doesn't need a chair to kick Christian's ass.
I was gonna say he doesn't need balls.
Listen, some people don't, and that's fine.
A lot of people don't.
Rhino goes to town on Christian. Rhino goes for a gore, but Christian throws the chair into his face. Rhino is bleeding as Christian hits him with the chair again. Christian goes to leave, but gets another chair and comes back, and then kills Rhino with a one-man concerto as Rhino's bleeding all over the place. Good angle. Good Christian promo. Rhino, like, they justified the pivot to Rhino about as well as you could, and, like, good blade job. Good heat.
It is good heat.
The following week, we have a recap of the attack last week. JB asks Christian about his motives. He's like, I'm in the business of teaching lessons. First Sting, and now Rhino. Ron Killings walks up, talks about how he took opportunity and didn't complain about it, even though his first TNA character was literally, he complained his way into getting a world title shot and then won.
Like, all the time. Like, it was his main thing.
He was literally accusing everybody of being racist.
Like, he was right, but, like, it was still, like, he was right, but, like, you still were complaining. Justifiable complaints.
So yeah, Ron should be on Christian's side. But yeah, he's like, I wasn't moaning about getting opportunities. Says Christian isn't man enough to face him. Christian calls him a poser. Ron says imitate. He doesn't imitate. He demonstrates. And then they brawl a little, and they will wrestle next week or the later night next week.
It does, like, scream as if they're like, let's just give Ron little things. We have nothing else for him, but let's just give him little bibs and bobs.
We need to find ways to make him not deeply unhappy.
Yeah.
September 7th Impact. Christian Cage defeats Ron Killings.
He sure does.
Similar enough to the Joe match, in which, like, nothing special, but it's like a decent, solid heavyweight main event style match. Truth hits a slingshot crossbody to send us out to break. They plugged the TNA Knockouts DVD, and Don says the words, "It's worth the buy if you know what I mean." I don't want to know what you mean, Don.
And I don't know what you mean.
Christian hits a spear for a near fall. Ref gets bumped, allowing Truth to get like a weird visual pin where he briefly got off the pin as Andrew Thomas staggered around. But low blow unprettier for the win. Christian grabs some chairs for a concerto, but then Rhino returns, makes the save. Rhino says Christian ran out of the ring like a little girl. Christian ended 10 years of friendship the other week and challenges Christian to a match at No Surrender, which Jim Cornette then makes official later in the show.
Perfect.
September 14th, we get a feature on the history between Rhino and Christian with some footage of them on the indies and messing around on the road together, which is, I'm so glad they do have that, because it's one of those things that just adds the layer of reality to it, that these two were in fact friends. You see all this old like VHS camcorder footage of them on the road together when they were younger. It just adds that extra layer.
It adds depth.
It's the kind of great thing where it's like, it's the right kind of reality being injected into wrestling. You don't have to fake it. You are like, these two were friends, and now it is a betrayal. Christian was the first person other than Rhino to hold it, and his wife to hold Rhino's daughter. Christian wants to help Rhino grow through tough love, because they have like talking head spots in this as well. The next week, go home show, Ronti and Mino.
Runty and Mino.
Monty and Rhino start the show with promos about a Falls Count Anywhere match they're having later tonight. Christian approaches Monty and says they have to talk some serious business.
It's raining.
Men?
Hallelujah. It's not raining. I imagined the rain sound.
Are you going crazy?
I don't know what's happening.
This is like what the appendix episode.
This might be worse.
There is like a canonical through line of "You've got to be kidding me" content of Liam is slowly dying as it happens.
Yeah.
Later in that show, Monty Brown versus Rhino in a Falls Count Anywhere match goes to a no contest.
Okay.
They show a bunch of highlights of the Falls Count Anywhere match from Hard Justice here. Monty sidesteps a gore as Rhino puts himself through a table. Rhino sets up a gore later in the match, but Christian runs out. The bell just starts ringing as the Falls Count Anywhere match is thrown out because one of the competitors brawls to the back.
The falls counted too hard.
And as they cut away, that's it for the alpha male Monty Brown.
That's insane.
This is the last time we ever see Monty in TNA.
I guess it makes sense that, like, Rhino and Monty are the final thing together. Because they've kind of been linked.
Yeah, like the pounce and the gore, that kind of thing. And they've been feuding for most of the summer.
So, like, you know, it's fitting.
Yeah, I guess because there was those notes that, like, they were a little more optimistic about keeping him at one point this month.
Yeah.
They may not have felt the need to, like, completely write him out. And then he just didn't resign and he was gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, these guys brawl to the back. Christian concertos Rhino against the wall backstage. And we just never see or hear from Monty Brown again.
Garrett.
Yeah, Liam?
Do you remember when Monty Brown was on NWA-TNA pay-per-view number 3?
Yeah, like people forget. Obviously, the listeners of our show might not, but people forget Monty was there for a brief period in 2002 as a very green wrestler who did, even like relative to his experience level in 2004, 2005, was not ready for that spot.
Do you remember when he wrestled Elix Skipper, Ron Killings, and Sonny Siaki? Just people of the era.
He had like that, was it Falls Count Anywhere or Stip match against Skipper, wasn't it?
They teamed once and then they feuded.
Mm.
Do you remember when Monty Brown wasn't anywhere in 2003?
Yeah, he disappeared for about a year and a half there.
Do you remember Monty Brown and the Sabu?
Yeah, do you remember when he returned? Do you remember what the return angle was?
I don't.
It was at the end of an ICP match.
Oh, shit.
Where there's like I think it was the Dark Carnival match. And then Monty came out and pounced somebody.
And then he wrestled Sabu a bunch.
Yeah, it was funny because I did the every Monty Brown pounce video.
Yeah.
So it was funny to see the people in that who got pounced a lot. And like on that list were like Sabu, Christian, Sonny Siaki ate a fuckload of pounces.
Yeah, he wrestled him a lot, that's why.
Yeah, Raven took a bunch as well.
Do you remember Victory Road 2004?
The first Monsters Ball.
With Abyss and Raven.
That match rocks. My defining memory of that match is Dixie Carter in the crowd going crazy at the Abyss thumbtack bump.
Garrett.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember Monty Brown versus Kevin Nash versus DDP?
Yeah, that was
leading, of course, to Monty Brown winning the NWA World Championship.
Yeah, everyone loves it when he did the babyface turn and everyone was super into him, and then he beat the big stars like Nash and DDP, and then all of a sudden he won the NWA title, right? Like, he won it. He won the belt.
He did not do that.
Damn.
I think more importantly, do you remember Monty Brown versus Triton?
Triton? Triton did in fact return to his home planet.
When we needed him most, he was not there.
And then later in that show, they did the fucking heel turn with Monty, where he realigned himself with Jarrett.
And just a bunch of shit.
Yeah, it really is after that just a bunch of shit, isn't it?
It's like, you know, he's in a King of the Mountain. He has some tag stuff.
Teams with Kip James an irrational number of times.
And then he does he's in just matches. He just is in matches. Monty and Jeff, that was like a fun match.
Hardy?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was. Jeff was kind of crazy.
Then he wrestled Christian. And then we get to this year, which really shows how well it went for him after that title challenge.
Yeah, the rest of 2005 was rough. And then it looked like they might be like, you know, he was in the tag against Sting and Christian.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, maybe Monty. And then he gets the Challenger of the Month spot against Christian.
And then he wasn't on Against All Odds.
Yeah. It's kind of done after the Challenger of the Month against Christian, isn't it?
Yeah, he wasn't on Lockdown. He wasn't on Sacrifice.
Wasn't on Slam. He lost the King of the Mountain qualifier.
And then like in between like those two pay-per-views too, he wasn't on TV.
I think he was getting surgery at one point in there. I think it wasn't. He was getting his knee scoped at one point after the loss.
And then, do you remember like the 7 Monty Brown rehabilitation attempts that were just him beating guys again on TV
to build him up to lose to Rhino?
And it's like it just lost its luster.
Yeah.
And then he kind of went out with a bang with the 3-way with Rhino and Joe,
which was probably his best match.
Yeah, it definitely was.
Because those squashes were really the sign that it was like it was all over.
They went back to the well again.
Like if you go back and watch the squashes at the start of the Spike TV era, like those squashes in October 2005, they're awesome. They have all like the Monty Brown energy to them. And then you watch the ones in the middle of 2006, which is only like 8 months later, and you're like, oh, it's all gone. It's just all gone. And I think like my big headline takeaway from like watching now Monty Brown's TNA career start to finish for this podcast is he just should have been a babyface. Like that's the be all and end all. Like when he turned babyface and he was opposing Jarrett, and when he had that awesome squash against Team Canada, like this dude was super charismatic. He had a finish that people would pop for. He should have been a babyface. He should have tried to Bill Goldberg him, but they didn't. They kept him as a heel. Even when he caught on as a babyface, they turned him heel. Then they did nothing with him. And I legitimately think the reason he stayed a heel for as much as he did is Jeff Jarrett saw Monty Brown babyface as a threat to his top spot.
Definitely like in that time period for sure.
Like that is the only explanation for it. Like he saw the crowd were behind him, the crowd were hot, and that's a threat to his position. So how do you negate that threat? You turn him heel, and as a character, make him a subservient lackey to you.
I was gonna say exactly. You do that. You make the whole point of it that he is like lesser than you because he is in your group.
And that's a shame. That's a bummer because
yeah.
Monty Brown was a man who was on television for 2 years. Fair enough, he had the ECW run after that, but no one really remembers that or cares about it. Like, this is a guy who was on television for 2 years, from, like, March of 2004 until September of 2006. And that is a run that still stands in people's minds all this time later.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing that really makes them a standout. Like, there's a lot of people who have had short runs through their career that, like, in the moment, people are like, maybe they should have been pushed more, but people just forget about. But people still, to this day, are like, fuck, Monty Brown should have been a bigger deal.
It is one of the biggest cases of booking malpractice that we've seen from this company so far.
And it is the thing that drives me crazy. Like, we've covered all of this, but, like, the idea that, like, there was nobody that could beat Jarrett. There's just, like, that's the talking point.
Yeah, he had to be the world champ. There was no one on his level.
And then you watch Monty at his peak, like pouncing people out of their boots and getting awesome reactions and cutting awesome promos and being awesome and looking like $1 million and having like mainstream crossover potential as a former NFL player who competed in the Super Bowl. Like that ticks all the fucking boxes. Weirdly, the one it doesn't tick is work rate, which is the one they always dismiss if somebody does have it, which is so annoying.
And then they use that as like their justification over and over and over again.
But yeah, what could have been, what should have been, sadly wasn't. And the deflating thing, watching it back, you kind of touched on it, like it's all over element of it. As you got into 2006, and you were just like, it's done. It's done for the alpha male.
It is.
But to tie this back to Rhino and Christian concertos Rhino against the wall at the end of this segment. JB catches up with Christian as Christian is leaving the building. He's like, there's 1,000 people I'd like to hit with a chair like this, but Rhino needs some tough love. And then he's like, Rhino's not on my level, and then tells Queer Eye to get lost because JB is gay, I guess.
Yeah, classic meme.
JB being gay. No surrender! JB has Rhino. Doctors have stated that after that concerto against the wall on Impact, Rhino should not compete. But Rhino's like, fuck the doctors, I'm here, but I hate Christian, I want to kill him. JB has Christian later in the show. JB's like, there's some rumors, Christian, that Sting's on his way here, and does that affect you? And Christian's like, nope, I'm the biggest star in the company, and I'm going to be, this has never been about Rhino, it's never been about Sting, it's all about me.
I like, again, like we're doing a little reference to Sting, but we're not going to pay that off anytime.
Ever. There is some Sting Christian stuff at the end of the year. They're like tangentially involved with each other, but there's never like the this is why I'm wrestling you is because you screwed me back then. Then we have the match, Christian Cage versus Rhino. This is one I think I was talking about in the watch along. I think it suffers from it not being a stipulation match here, and I understand like in terms of story and escalation why it's not. Like you need to do the singles to build to the stip match, but it feels like the build they've had kind of warrants them starting at a stip. So the idea of them just kind of doing a match, and they do it with decent intensity, but it just feels like there should be more like violence here based on what they've done to each other in the build-up.
Yeah. But like again, I guess that's like they're gonna run back at Bound for Glory.
Yep, they're coming back with a stip, and then they do a cage match.
Because like
too.
I like this match. I think it's fun. My biggest takeaway from it was like I kind of felt like Rhino winning here would have been perfect. Just because like Christian, he's so full of himself. He made the reason to turn on Sting. He like it's all about him, and then like for him to immediately reach a roadblock and like kind of send him spiraling even further down into it, I think would have been fine. And because he's like fresh off the heel turn, I don't think it really like affects him to lose either.
Yeah,
because it's not like he's losing to someone like lower than him. It's like someone comparable, and I think I like the story element more of like Christian being like, like tasting like that other, like just further disappointment, like, and then just having to go like crazier with it, I think would have been fine. But like, I also get like them not wanting to immediately sort of discredit it, but I just feel like it would have been fine, and the match felt like it was building to literally that.
And they might have felt hamstrung as well by, it's not a thing they ever really emphasize, but like Christian hasn't been pinned in TNA yet. So that's a thing that they might be like, maybe we want Rhino to win, but it's not the right time to pin Christian for the first time.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that like hovers for a long time. That's never like, you know, the Joe undefeated streak style, but
yeah,
I think he goes without being pinned longer than Joe. So the match, Rhino dumps Christian out to the floor with a back body drop, and Christian takes one of his wild, wacky bumps that's crazier than it ever should be. We have some crowd brawling. Christian drops a Rhino with an Impaler DDT on the ramp. I really like that Christian does all of Edge's moves.
It's good.
He does the spear, he does the Edge-O-Matic, he does the Impaler DDT.
He's been doing them for 10 years, you know?
He's been doing like the Edge-O-Matic, like that's the like grab him by the chin and drop him down move. But like the Impaler and the spear, I think, are TNA additions.
Yeah, but then like he will just keep them forever. I like that he's just like, he's my friend, I can do his moves.
Yeah, I'm in a different company. It's not mean anymore.
Oh, it's still mean.
He got a near fall and a frog splash. Rhino gets busted open. Christian ducks a short arm clothesline, and Rhino hits Andrew Thomas instead. Christian immediately gets a visual pin on an Edge-O-Matic of all things. Then goes out to get some chairs, but then Rhino gores him, but there's no ref.
How dare you bury the Edge-O-Matic?
That's not a pin move.
How dare you?
Rhino goes for a concerto, but Andrew Thomas revives long enough to pull the chair out of Rhino's hands, but then disappears long enough again for Christian to hit a low blow and Unprettier for the win, as the trainer attends to Rhino, and Christian ekes out his victory.
I'm looking forward to them coming back to this.
Yeah, or maybe end on like a DQ, but like one of those wild DQs because Rhino just keeps beating the shit out of him. He loses because he kicks too much ass.
Yeah.
But yeah, good feud. Good start to Christian's heel run. As I said, breath of fresh air compared to the babyface stuff, honestly.
It just suits him more.
He has that face. He has, not the Vince, he has that face because Vince hates his face, but he has he has that smug shit-eating face, and it makes everything he does so much better.
Yeah.
Next up, the continued adventures of Brother Runt and Abyss after they had a match at Victory Road or Hard Justice that Abyss won. August 24th Impact, JB has Brother Runt. He says Abyss made the classic mistake of letting him live to fight another day.
They were also all involved in that opening thing on the first.
Oh yes, the schmoz after the Jarrett celebration was interrupted. They were some of the people to run out. You're right.
Yeah.
So Abyss made the mistake of letting him live to fight another day, and so he challenges Abyss to a match of 10,000 thumbtacks next week. He then headbutts the production truck a couple of times and leaves, and then Raven is sitting at the top of the truck, kind of cackling maniacally.
You think if you're Raven, you're like, God, I have been relegated to like the plunder division.
His TNA career is a bit of a roller coaster, isn't it?
Yeah.
He was always going to be the one that suffered most from getting actual stars.
Yeah.
Because Raven was very much, you're our top guy because we don't have a guy who is actually a main eventer in the other companies.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second, like Christian and Sting and now Angle coming in, Raven was always just going to fall and fall and fall.
But you think you could at least do stuff with those guys?
Yeah. And Raven has always been like a really reliable guy because like even after he lost to Jarrett in 2003, the next year of him was like him having really reliably good mid-card programs.
Yeah.
So you think they could slot him back into that spot, but maybe they're kind of done with him too, maybe. It feels like it. It feels like he's kind of still around out of a little bit of loyalty to what he meant to the company when they were like in needier times, but they know they're never doing anything with him. Abyss, later in that show, for the 5th and final time, Liam, wrestles Cassidy Riley.
I can't believe it. Why did they never commit to just Cassidy Riley being a Raven offshoot guy?
Yeah, they did it for like 2 months as like an actual angle and then just kind of dropped it.
And like, I think he was like kind of doing well in that role.
Yeah, it gave him something. Because like, as a guy, because like Bats is gone now, Jarrell Clark is gone, a lot of the jobbers are gone. We have no Buck Quatermain or Lex Lovett. Cassidy Riley's like the last man standing here as like total job guy. And he found a little thing that gave a little personality, and then they just kind of dropped it.
Again, probably just goes with the, we don't actually want to push Raven in any real capacity.
Riley has some like Lundrick pants at this point.
I thought they were pretty good.
They were quite nice. James Mitchell is on commentary and he suggests that Raven has telepathically hypnotized Brother Runt.
And perhaps Cassidy Riley.
Abyss throws Riley with an overhead German where Riley does like an extra rotation and it looks crazy.
He's fighting for that job.
Mitchell drops some thumbtacks all over the announce table to set up the match of 10,000 tacks. He's like, look, thumbtacks. Abyss wins with a black hole slam. Abyss pours the tacks out in the middle of the ring. He then poses with a bunch of them and then punches them with his fucking hand, his bare hand. And I feel like he intended to only punch them once. If you look, I think he was like, I'll give it one big punch and I'll come up with some tacks in my hand. But when he does, he realizes there's not enough tacks in his hand for it to be a good visual. So then he does like 3 more straight punches to shoot thumbtacks, which you know because when he pulls his hand back up, they do a close-up of his hand where you can see the thumbtacks stuck in them.
It looks awful.
It looks so sore to just like bum, bum, bum the thumbtacks with your fucking bare-ass hands. It's awesome, though. It's so badass.
It's insane.
It's the kind of thing that is too cool for this feud.
But, you know, it's also Raven. Sorry, it's Abyss. That's what he does.
Like, this is a thing where if you're like a main event program, this is a really cool thing to sell the violence of the big stipulation match you have coming up. But he's doing this to set up like a throwaway TV match against Brother Runt next week. Shoot punching thumbtacks with his bare hand. Looks really cool, though. He's so cool. He's the coolest wrestler. So he makes a couple of one-off appearances in 2013 on one-night only shows. But this is the end of Cassidy Riley as a full-time TNA performer.
I don't have much remember when left in me.
Remember when he did 5 squash matches against Abyss on TV?
Remember the Hot Shots?
Yeah, they did the Hot Shots for a little while, the precursor to the Naturals. No Andy Douglas yet. That's about it. There's nothing else. That's all he did.
We had some cool gear.
He got squashed a lot on TV. 5 times by Abyss. 5 Abyss
And
Cassidy
he's
Riley matches.
kind of a Raven guy almost.
Yeah, there was that thing for a while that they did and then didn't do. But that's Cassidy Riley. One of the I think we're in a period where a lot of like the still hanging around OGs are starting to fall away. Because I think like Skipper is about to leave for a while. He comes back in 2007 though. David Young is about to leave for more or less good. I think he has a couple more matches. We're losing Monty. We're losing Cassidy Riley. Talked about how a lot like the kind of low-key job guys are disappearing or fading away. And it does feel like a shift into a new era of TNA. All those like hang around guys from like the early Impact TV days and maybe some of the leftover guys from the Asylum are just slipping on away.
Yeah. But like it's natural.
Speaking of, they are 2 people who are about to slip away.
It's the Naturals who are also leaving.
It is a transitionary period. So even with the change of Booker to Russo, there's some people who have been just like hanging around who their time is up.
Yeah.
We had a teaser for the match of 10,000 Tacks to close that show. Abyss is shown. There's like the classic like coming up tonight segments where usually it's just somebody posing, you know, or just like being pumped up or whatever. This one was Abyss like pouring thumbtacks over the camera lens. It was really cool. It's one of those things that's just like a little bit of creativity and something that's usually pretty rote and by the numbers. And like I always appreciate that. It's like, oh, they put some effort into that thing instead of just being like coming up later, Abyss, and Abyss is just standing there.
It's probably difficult with like that stuff. Like you probably like I just gotta shoot so much shit. We're in a big tape. We got like 2 taping days, and I've got to shoot all this fucking B-roll. Just Abyss do a grrr.
Yep. Yeah, and then you leave. Joe come up, go grr. You leave.
Yeah.
Raven come up, go grr.
Jarrett come up and go ha 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 ha, and rub your hands together.
And job done. In and out. We have our transition things. So we had a feature on the match of 10,000 Tacks, narrated by James Mitchell. And then Abyss defeated Brother Runt in a match of 10,000 Tacks. They showed the replay of him punching the tacks, which I did appreciate.
This match was like nothing. And quite frankly, it pissed me off.
Even like the stipulation, it's the match of 10,000 Tacks. So that makes you think loads of thumbtacks.
Yeah, like there's gonna be like one of those big like things in the middle of the ring.
Like a pit of tacks.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like they use those like in those matches.
Like the Mimosa Mayhem, but for tacks.
No, not that big, but like there's like a cardboard thing with like an outline around it, and then like they can fill it all up with tacks in the middle, and then someone takes a big bump in the tacks thing.
Which there was those kind of sheet things that they use for like the table bump, but
like more, like giant.
Like my thing was like, oh, it'll be like a tax or legal match.
Yeah.
Whereas in practice, it was the first person to put their opponents in tax wins.
But like, yeah, it should have been. They should have had like that, but then like they can just do stuff over and over and over and over again.
But yeah, just one bump and it's over. One thumbtack spot and the match is over. That's not 10,000 tacks. That's like 17 tacks. Let's be real.
Like they had the big thing, but like you should be able to just throw him in over and over and over again.
Yeah, the big thing wasn't even the match or like in the match. It was after the match.
Yeah.
So this match has kind of two acts. Before the break, they set up two tables below the ramp with like coverings of thumbtacks, like
and those are cool.
A sheet of thumbtacks that they put on the tables, and then they come back from break, and Abyss just puts Runt in tacks and wins.
Yeah,
he's like because Runt goes for an acid drop, Abyss just drops him in the tacks, and the match is over. That's it. The actual content of the match is like 4 minutes.
But we get the bump at least.
Yeah. So after the match, Abyss drags Runt up to the stage because he wants to drop him through his little contraption, his tables and his tacks. Raven shows up and interferes, stops Runt from being thrown off, and then Raven knee lifts Abyss off the stage through two tables, both of which have like a bed of thumbtacks on them. So that you at least get a cool enough bump.
It could have been more tacks, to be honest.
Yeah, it was more of a table bump than a tack bump, really.
And then like Raven has like gross green eyes.
Yeah, he has those contacts in that make him look weird.
They're really gross.
Not a fan?
I don't like them. They look like his eyes are about to explode.
Yeah. They're really like vivid as well. Like they look like it is off-putting.
They look like they've been blown up.
And then very funnily, this segment ends with just men walking down the ramp with guns. To transition into the public execution bit, but it's just like men marching down the ramp with like AK-47s after this match.
I didn't talk about it before, but like as a man from a country where guns are banned, to just see shoot weapons in a public space is fucking insane.
Yeah, anytime I'm the same. Like I remember I went to Paris to Disney World or Euro Disney in Paris. And just standing outside the gates of Euro Disney is just men with like large guns. And like, as also a person from a country that does not have guns, just seeing guns is so weird. It's so weird. Just that, like, there it is. There's a gun.
It's fucking insane.
Like, I've never seen a gun in this country in my life. I am 32 years old. I've never seen a gun in Ireland. Ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as you said, just like lads walking down with fucking rifles.
Yeah.
It'd just be a normal part of a wrestling television show. Following week, September 7th, Raven has a feature about how in the 90s he started his own personal family, and the favorite was the litter, which was Runt, which is why he's called Brother Runt, I guess. He'll face Abyss in Hangman's Horror next week, which he does. Hangman's Horror, if you remember, you have to strap dog collars around your opponent's neck, throw them over the ropes to win. There has only been one Hangman's Horror match before in TNA history. It was the Raven and Sanjay Dutt match back in 2004 during the Sabu feud. They also did the Blood Gallows of Retribution match, which I think had similar-ish rules, if I remember. The one with Vampiro.
Yeah. There's so many like Raven gimmick stuff.
Yeah, because it was like, this was almost presented as like Raven's signature match. It's like, no, we have one of those.
And it's like he's had about 8 of them.
Yeah. I liked Blood Gallows of Retribution. That was a dumb name.
But like the Clockwork Orange House of Fun, you know? Like that's like actually his main match.
Yeah, that is like his established gimmick match.
I mean, you're gonna get another Clockwork Orange House of Fun match ever.
We got one last year in TNA.
Yeah, but I mean like from Raven.
No, probably not.
What the fuck?
I did like the touch that they brought Raven in for commentary for the one last year.
Yeah. But like, I don't know. Is 2006 our last time, you know? I want more.
I think there's some in 2007.
Woo! We're back, baby!
If I remember, there is at least one on TV.
Yeah, we'll have to bring that up for TV.
Raven ties up Abyss from two sides and starts hitting with a trash can because there's dog collars from the like 4 corners of the ring. Mitchell interferes, distracts Raven. Abyss hangs him to win. Again, totally throwaway match on TV here. It's just one of those things that like devalues the very idea of doing this kind of match on TV, because even if people tune in for it, it's like it was nothing.
Yeah.
Abyss hangs him.
Like, all of the Abyss stuff was like cool in theory, but didn't deliver at all.
Because it was never it was just 4 minutes. Like, there's nothing they can do.
Yeah.
It's nothing Abyss and Raven did wrong. But if you're doing a match where like you have to hang people, you can't do that in 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Runt attacks Abyss with a chair after the match and goes to help Raven, but then Runt drops Raven on the floor with an acid drop.
That's cool. I don't get what Raven and Runt's problem is with each other.
Neither do I, because they don't really expand
Like,
on
they were
this.
kind of like teaming up against Abyss over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, now they're like throwing hands.
Because, like, the suggestion is that, like, Raven is manipulating Runt into doing these things and picking a fight with Abyss. That's, like, the story. How Runt dropping Raven plays into that, I'm not particularly sure. Because I feel like that should be the moment where he realizes he's being, like, manipulated into fighting for Raven's amusement.
The thing is, I also don't think he is being manipulated.
No.
Like, you could argue, like, yeah, if Raven was just chilling back the whole time, but, like, he saved him.
Yeah, he came to his aid to stop him from being thrown through the tack table contraption.
Like, if Raven just came out and, like, was watching as he got thrown through it, yes, like, that's the story. But that's not the story, because he came out and tried to kill Abyss.
I don't think they've thought much about this, to be honest.
Yeah, they're just like, these three people are gonna have a plunder match.
That is legitimately it. It's like, how do we get this to a 3-way? And the only way is if Runt does something to Raven. So that's how we do it. And that's as far as they thought.
I don't know. You could have done, like, the accidental thing, I guess. And, like, Raven is the kind of guy to hold a grudge, so...
He is deluded and crazy. Go home show during the Eric Young Norman Smiley match, it's announced that Abyss, Raven, and Runt will have a 3-way at the pay-per-view, which they do, and it's a ton of fun.
Yeah, like, we can lament about the plunder usage, and, like, it was still not as bad as, like, we have been, where, like, it lost all meaning.
Yeah, where Raven was, like, bleeding buckets every single goddamn week.
Yeah, but, you know, like, when they go to pay-per-view and Abyss has his plunder match that he does every fucking pay-per-view, it's always good.
And this is, like, they actually got time to work, so they could do some silly stuff. And they had an awesome butt rock promo before. The feature beforehand was a lot of fun.
Was it the Linkin Park one?
Yeah, that's for Ultimate X. In this match, Abyss hit his seated senton on Raven, which he never hits. He always gets, like, crotched with a chair.
He does the asshole bump.
He drops his ass on somebody for the first, maybe not the first time, but he never hits that. He's always, like, foiled. Abyss press slams Runt from the ring, not into the crowd this time, but onto Raven, much to my relief. Raven pulls out a helmet and puts on the helmet and starts charging head first at people with the helmet. Raven drop toe holds Runt down the tunnel, which is a fun spot. He just disappears out of sight. Raven sets up Abyss on a table on the top of the ramp, but then Runt re-emerges to hit a double stomp off the stage onto Abyss onto the table, which does not break. Runt just slides fucking off of Abyss. Like, he hits him and just goes woo and slides off, crashes and burns as Abyss and the table just fall over. And
So stupid.
Don West attempts to rationalize it, that Abyss's gear is very leathery and slippery. Therefore, Runt slipped off. And I rationalize it as Abyss is the wettest man in existence.
Yeah, if they had have respected the wet law that we established.
And this
This would have been the perfect moment for the full circle.
For years, I've been asking the question, why is Abyss so wet? And we have finally found out. It is a defensive mechanism.
It is like a tortoise's shell.
Yes, it is. Raven brings Runt up to the camera perch, hangs him from it, and then knocks him off it through a table stack. Abyss hits Raven with the Black Hole Slam for the win. It's like silly, pointless plunder, but they do some silly, fun stuff, and it's kind of wacky, so thumbs up.
Thumbs up from me as well.
Because, like, a problem with the plunder you see a lot is it is literally just like, oh, trash can spot and chair spot and the same thing you've ever seen. And there's some fun stuff here, like the camera perch stuff and the drop to hold down the ramp and Runt eating shit trying to do a double stomp off the stage. That gave it at least some juice.
And to go back to our point about Raven, like, and how nothing is ever going to happen for him anymore. Like, again, there's no reason for Abyss to pin Raven in this 3-way. But it's like, here's Raven taking the pin.
Yeah, you gotta protect a Runt.
But I think it's less like you gotta protect Radamar. It's like, who gives a shit?
The final kind of heavyweight thing this month, Bobby Roode is continuing his search for a new manager.
He sure fucking is.
So we had all those features last month about how like Bobby Roode is free of Team Canada now. He's the hottest free agent in wrestling. Everyone wants to sign him, and he wants to hear the pitches. He wants to hear from everyone in TNA about why they should manage him. So on the August 17th Impact, he interviews the managers of TNA right now, which is
Current standings.
Simon Diamond, Franchise, and James Mitchell. He is not pleased with these people.
I desperately want James Mitchell.
Mitchell made the best pitch.
We did, but I like the idea of like Bobby Roode, money, evil, evil capitalism, demon
With Abyss just there too.
Yeah.
I do like the idea. They do, like it's a thing AEW been doing a little lately with like the Don Callis trade stuff. But I like the idea of managers being like managers and like acting as talent agents. And like going like seeing a free agent and wanting to go out and get them instead of like the way it usually is, which is like a manager has their one guy they stick to. But like they all pitch Bobby. Bobby's like, I want a title shot now. I want to know how much money I'll make now. None of you are good enough. So the August 31st Impact, Bobby decides that those guys were nerds. They were geeks, didn't like them. We have to go outside of TNA. We have to find other managers. So he's going outside the box, and they showed 2 photos of men on the screen, which I screenshotted and reverse image searched so I would know who these people are. But it is Pat Riley, who's like a basketball coach man, and Joe Torre.
Also president and owner of Miami Heat.
Sure, he has that going for him too now. And also Joe Torre, who is a baseball
What do you
coach
mean
man.
now, from 1995?
Oh, not anymore?
Like from 1995. It's not a recent addition.
Well, I didn't dive deep into the careers of Pat Riley and Joe Torre. I just wanted to know who
That's
they
a
were.
three-time NBA Coach of the Year. God damn it!
Still don't know who he is. I'm sorry.
Seems like you should be. Seems like Bobby Roode should probably take that deal.
Yeah, I found that like it was interesting. I wondered, did they hope they could get like some random like outside of the box kind of like sporting coach to sell this as, because they get some fun people that we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, if they got somebody from the sporting world to maybe add another layer, or that Chicago White Sox coach who was problematic and did
the
ankles.
exact same thing. Yeah,
But they didn't. But they showed those men on screen. September 7th Impact, Bobby Roode has his first pitch. He receives a pitch from Bobby Heenan. Good place to start.
That's fun.
Bobby talks about how he managed Rick Rude, he managed Big John Studd, he managed Andre the Giant, he managed Ric Flair. All the men he's managed to become champions. He gives and then he's like, I have this real estate company if you want to invest on the ground floor. Here's a little cash for you and your wife to go for dinner. Then Rude says he's not married. So Bobby's like, you can give me the $10 back next time you see me.
No, that's like, go have dinner, here's $10.
And then he tells them the money is Canadian, which is a nice gesture, but they don't accept that in Orlando, Bobby. He can't buy dinner with it.
Not legal tender.
Also, currency conversion wise, he probably wants it to be USD. I think this might be the last television appearance for Heenan anywhere.
I wonder.
When does he do like the WWE Hall of Fame stuff? I think that might have been earlier this year,
I have no clue.
where he did some like Hall of Fame inductions. But like his last commentary appearance was the calling the Turning Point match last year. I believe this is the last appearance of him on television in any capacity.
Still immensely funny.
Oh no, he was on TV, WWE TV in 2007. So one of the very last appearances of Bobby Heenan on television here. And yeah, still like obviously he is having comprehensive health issues at this point. You can see it. You can see his health deteriorating. But it's fun to see him. It's fun to just see Bobby Heenan on TV. One of the best to ever do it in any capacity. In color commentary, as a manager, people have spent their entire life trying to imitate his color commentary. One of the best to ever do it. The next week, Bobby Roode gets pitch number 2 from Colonel Robert Parker of WCW fame.
I would have said yes to Sherry.
And then also 2018 MLW fame. Robert Parker popped
Of
up.
course, yes.
Everyone remembers that. Promises Rude 24 karat gold, and then Rude considers it. And then his final pitch, as you mentioned, is sensational Sherry Martel is the final person. And she's like, behind every man is a strong, successful woman. Savage, DiBiase, HBK, we're all champs, and I can do that for you too. And then Rude invites her out for dinner.
If this isn't a compilation on the TNA YouTube, it should be.
It would be too short, really, for a compilation, but it's a fun thing. It's a fun little angle. Like you were suggesting, weren't you, last month, that like the thing they should do is get some classic managers to pitch on Rude, and here you go. And a good bunch of people to get. Obviously, Robert Parker is more of a niche pull, but like Sherry Martel and Bobby Heenan are two of like the iconic managers or rallies of their era. So And we will find out who Rude decides on as we go into next month, because he does not make a final decision yet.
I like how he doesn't know, like, who he's meeting with.
Yeah, he just opens the door. It's like, whoa!
It's very funny to be like, I don't know who I'm meeting with. That's why he needs a manager. He clearly can't set up his own shit.
Yeah, he doesn't have somebody like telling him where to go and booking cars for him. He just strolls up, sees a limo in the impact zone every week, and it's like, who's it this week?
Apparently that was Sherry's last wrestling appearance.
Oh, that's a shame. Oh yeah, because like the Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty, Kurt Angle thing would have been 2005, wouldn't it? Where she did an angle as part of that. But yeah, so one of those small bits of TNA history, the final Sherry Martel appearance in TNA in wrestling history.
I don't know, obviously, like, it'd be impossible to, like, work it out, but, like, Sherry would have been perfect.
Yeah, she would have been really good. She would have been really good for that spot.
Yeah.
We will lump all the X Division kind of together because it's a Jackass and
A useless division for bullshit.
That is true. It is a product promotion division this month.
Maybe Russo is back already.
There is a lot of stuff about this that you're like, I wonder how much influence Russo had on some of these TVs.
And some of it I'm going to defend.
Yep.
And then, like, they make it impossible.
That is Russo for you. Even the things where you want to give him, like, credit and benefit of the doubt, he just pulls the rug out from under you at any moment.
100%.
August 17th, Impact, we have a 6-man tag team match. It is Chris Sabin, Jay Lethal, and Sanjay Dutt versus Alex Shelley, Giant Divine. And I wrote Sanjay Dutt, but I guess it was somebody else. But I don't remember who because I didn't write it down.
Was it Petey?
Probably Petey. I would have it here in the... Yeah, Petey. Petey is the other man.
I think I remember Petey because he has, like, the black gear now.
Yep. And I checked the sheet. The sheet has Petey. I correctly put it in the sheet.
Look at me remembering.
You love your TNA. You play like you don't, but you love your TNA. Dutt, Lethal, and Sabin hit a trio of dives. There's one of the Earl Hebner segments where he's attacking Slick Johnson with his belt in here too. It still looks like he like emerged from a shift in the mines. His face covered in soot and like burn. I think he's still in the fire. Back from break, and Andrew Thomas has taken over as a ref because Slick has been taken away by Earl. Dutt gets the hot tag. Sabin and Lethal do the row your boat thing as Dutt gets a near fall and a rana on Shelley in the middle of the boat. Not like a literal boat. You know the thing where they grab the legs and go row, row, row with the legs. Sabin will face Senshi for the title because he beat Shelley at the pay-per-view, even though he was meant to face Nash at the pay-per-view, and Nash pulled out of the match because he faked an injury, and everyone knew he faked an injury, so they just said he faked an injury. But nonetheless, because Sabin beat Shelley, he will get the shot at Senshi at No Surrender. They isolate Divine. Sabin pins him with a springboard leg drop. Good little match. I enjoyed it for what it was. It was frankly one of the better TV matches this month because it got a little time and had some good energy to it, but nothing special at all. The August 31st Impact, Chris Sabin and Jay Lethal face Senshi and Petey Williams.
Warrior.
Here, Mike Tenay mentions that Conan and Moody Jack are pushing their political agenda, and it's hurting TNA's bottom line, and they're under investigation.
Oh, the sponsors are complaining.
That actually should have been it. It's like they're really jeopardizing our Jackass sponsorship.
I don't know if they could legally do that.
The Jackass would be fine. I think Jackass would be fine, like, involving themselves in an angle like that. Though I think of all the brands to be like, they're getting a little, like, snooty about the content of our show. Jackass might not be the one that works.
God, I wish they could have got a Jackass, like, person to show up.
Yeah, like, if you're going to invest that much in the Jackass story as being, like, the story of the X Division, you damn well better get Steve or Johnny Knoxville on your show, you know?
Yeah, but, like, they're doing Raw.
They're not that famous in 2006.
They literally did Raw in 2006, didn't they?
Well, they did it as, like, during the guest host era, didn't they?
The Umaga thing was like 06, wasn't it?
Maybe they did. Maybe TNA got the sloppy seconds.
What was the year? It was 2006, October.
It was right after this?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a dagger to the heart.
So, look at you, huh?
That would be so galling to be like, we devoted, you know, a month of our, like, premier division, our trademark
on Spike
division.
TV.
We sullied it with your Jackass bullshit, and the month later you sent the stars to WTV. Oh no.
And then they're gonna go work a match with Umaga.
Sabin goes for a baseball slide as Senshi hits a rolling liger kick and then just kind of boops Senshi with his foot instead because he mistimed it. It was funny. Petey goes for the destroyer on Sabin, but Sabin does the counter, which will pop me every time, and I love it every time. It's the longest term story in this company. Sabin has the counter to the Canadian destroyer.
They're gonna wrestle one and they're not gonna do it, and it's gonna be heartbreaking.
literally I'll fall on the floor and be devastated. Or because they wrestle in like 2013, like they'll do it then and I will lose my fucking mind.
Well, we'll have to see. Will it be depression or will it be excitement?
Sabin hits the future shock as Senshi just stares him down instead of saving PD because they weren't getting along in the three-way match at Hard Justice and they still aren't getting along here. So the next week, September 7th, which the thing that makes me think there was some kind of creative pivot for the second set of TV tapings this month is that it was taped as blocks of 3 and 3. And all the Jackass stuff comes in that second block of 3.
Well, they probably just got the deal then, right?
Yeah, but the way it's all done, it feels so Russo.
And to have like them all these baby faces be like, "Oh, shut up, Jerry, you old bitch. I'm gonna watch Johnny Knoxville," you know?
They become like obnoxious heels.
Like the guys who were like ride or die for Jerry like months beforehand.
No, stop being
like,
an old man.
Like, oh, you have to fight Kevin Nash. He's disrespecting the division. And they're like, hell yeah, Jerry, let's fucking go. And then it's like 4 weeks later, they're like, shut up, you old nerd.
We need to watch our TV shows and play our video games.
But like, honestly, like, despite it being like dorky, it's like, it does feel like Motor City Machine Guns Chris Sabin to me, so I'm cool with it.
This is his heel turn. Like, he is a heel after this. It's a really weird heel turn.
Because, like, his heel turn is, I'm going to play video games.
It is like a double turn with Senshi this month, but it's a very strange way to do it.
Again, coming off of X-Division Defender Chris Sabin.
The whole idea, that he was supposed to conquer Nash and go on to triumphantly gain the X-Division title again, and he turns heel immediately. The X-Division are backstage. They're watching Jackass number 2.
Hell yeah.
Jerry Lynn comes in.
The best Jackass.
Is that your favorite?
Yeah.
I've never seen a full Jackass movie.
What the? You need to Jackass-a-thon.
I probably do. I've watched like bits and pieces and obviously like compilations and some of the TV show because it was popular while I was growing up, but I've never actually sat down and watched a Jackass movie.
Jackass 1 through 4.
Those are the good ones?
Yeah, they're the only ones, so yes.
Rank them. Or do they all kind of blend?
2, 4, 1, 3.
So they kind of turned it around come 4?
I mean, like, they're all good. It's just like 4 is a remarkable, like, how did they still do it, you know?
Yeah, maybe they shouldn't be. Jerry Lynn comes in, and he's chastising Sabin, Lethal, and Dutt for watching the movie. Sabin is like, I'm getting my ideas from it. Lynn gives up and leaves, and then they watch a bull gore Knoxville and laugh.
There's just like a group of stoners now.
That is kind of it. That is the vibe.
How old was Chris Sabin at this time?
Probably like late 20s.
He's 82. So what's...
That would make him 24, mid-20s.
Yeah, okay, it's a perfect age for it.
I was a little disappointed that they showed the clip of Johnny Knoxville being gored a couple times and no one made a gore reference.
Yeah, if Shelly was there, that's a Shelly bit 100%.
Yeah. Rhino's on your show. Crossover. That should have been the crossover. He goes to
Johnny
TNA.
Knoxville getting gored.
Yeah, and he starts getting gored by Rhino instead.
No, they should have done like a 1-for-1 recreation of the skit.
Yes.
But have Rhino be there instead, beating him up.
Be really good. See, they should have brought us here. We would have fixed it.
We are creative. Someone sign us. We'll save your company.
September 14th Impact. Chris Sabin faces Alex Shelley.
It's fine.
Again, they get no time. It's one of the like these matches.
We should stop like having any opinions. Just like we're gonna talk about the matches. We're not gonna give you any opinions unless it's something worth talking about.
If you look at my notes here, there is not a single thing about a move that happened in the match other than the finish.
Yeah.
Because, like, who cares? Like, it's the same thing as Abyss and Raven. It's like, nothing about the quality of this match is these men's fault. They were sent out there for 4 minutes to wrestle before they did an angle. The match doesn't matter. So, Tenay speculates about where Johnny Devine is and where the camera might be, because Devine doesn't come out with Shelley here. They showed a replay of the X Division watching Jackass number 2 last week. We also have, like, Jackass number 2 sponsorship around, like, the side of the ring and on the apron. And on the outskirts of the ring. It's on the ring mat, but on the sides. Senshi watches on from the top of the ramp. Dutt and Lethal emerge from the tunnel with Johnny Devine on a shopping cart. Inspired by the Jackass they watched, they run Johnny Devine down the ramp in the shopping cart as fast as they can.
That's crazy.
They send him crashing into the ring post at full speed, which crotches Shelley up top and allows Sabin to pin Shelley with a cradle.
It's a good finish, to be fair.
Yeah, credit to Devine, who takes that full force bump. Like, they run that shopping cart down that ramp as fast as they can, and that collides with the ring post, and there's only one place Johnny Devine is going, and he sends himself flying. So fair play to him. He has committed to the Jackass of it all. X Division champion Senshi was not able to wrestle at the Impact taping on September 4th, which was taping the back 3 episodes of this pay-per-view cycle. TNAWrestling.com reported that Senshi wore a neck brace at the taping after being diagnosed with a grade 2 whiplash. That level of whiplash indicates decreased range of motion in the neck with slight physical damage or tenderness. It hurts like hell, he told TNA's website. My range of motion is very limited. Senshi is expected to defend the X Division title against Chris Sabin at No Surrender. Jeremy Borash came up with the idea of having Jay Lethal, Chris Sabin, and Sanjay Dutt watch the Jackass movie footage backstage and use Jackass tactics against Johnny Devine. Although X Division wrestlers take heat for their matches being undisciplined high spot fests, what the fuck else are they meant to do in 4 minutes, by the way? Fuck off. Head Booker DeMore preaches that the rules are different for the X Division guys, and their role is primarily to provide thrilling mid-card action rather than tell realistic stories in their matches like the heavyweights are supposed to. I would argue the heavyweights aren't doing that either.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, what criticism can you give any of the TV stuff right now?
They don't exist. They're matches that barely exist. If they ever get any time, they're pretty good normally. They're good wrestlers. It is Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin and Petey Williams and Jay Lethal and Loki and Sanjay Dutt. They're all really good. No one has any doubt about that, but they're not given any chance. We had a series of vignettes through this month hyping that a star will be born at Bound for Glory.
That's right. Lady Gaga.
This is her moment? This is where she came from?
She'll be here.
A star with 2 R's will be born at Bound for Glory in Detroit.
A-Star. Austin Star.
Is that who it is?
Could it be?
My God. My favorite character.
Have I cracked the code?
You're like the Chris Jericho.
that Jim Ross thing.
What?
The video where it's like, who is it? Who is it? Goldberg! Goldberg! Oh, you son of a bitch. Is it Steve Austin? It's Steve Austin. He's here. I'm delirious.
No, he's a wrestler. He's not around.
It's delirious. It's delirious is here.
That is Austin Aries. He'll be returning at Bound for Glory.
For some reason, they changed his fucking name.
September 21st, Jay Lethal faces Petey Williams.
Okay.
They show replays of the Destroyer during Petey's entrance, and Dawn mentions it's like an optical illusion.
Okay.
Which it is. That's wrestling, Dawn.
It's all an optical illusion.
They also replayed the Divine Carts incident, so at least I do like TNA are really good for that.
The incident.
Like, very rarely will a thing that happen on the show that where, like, if someone takes a bump like that, they will show it the next week. If Abyss punches some thumbtacks, if Divine takes a bump into the post, like, they will get more mileage out of that than just a one-off thing. PD goes for the Destroyer. Dutt and Sabin walk out. Lethal gets a bowling ball. He bowls the ball into PD's groin because PD's seated in the corner because Jackass, and then Lethal gets the pin. Senshi is interviewed by JB later in the show. He is not amused by these Jackass antics. Sabin, Lethal, Dutt walk up. They're like, we're just trying to have fun, man. Lighten up. Sabin then does a bad Senshi impression that Dutt laughs way too much at. And as we have illustrated, Senshi is the easiest wrestler to imitate in the world. You just have to say, Warrior.
Warrior. Oh, he hasn't done the Nash promo yet.
No, that's end of the year. Yeah, Warrior.
Then it becomes the easiest impression of all time.
Sabin says he enjoyed him in Bloodsport though and walks away.
So Sabin, Lethal, and Dutt are all heels now.
Lethal and Dutt aren't.
It makes no sense. They're all assholes.
To the same level. Sabin is the only one that turns. Lethal and Dutt stay babyface.
It makes no sense.
No, it doesn't. It makes no sense at all. Pay-per-view. Petey Williams versus Jay Lethal.
So we get 2 Jackass matches here.
Yeah.
And what I would say is, I am fine with doing a sponsored, like, comedy, match like Lethal and Petey is. That's okay. But you don't need to drag it into the other match as well, when you've also done it 3 times on TV.
Yeah, you've really driven the point home at this point.
Yeah.
Also, the cart bit was the best one they've done.
Yeah.
That felt most like an actual Jackass stunt.
Yeah. If they were doing an actual Jackass stunt, they would have legitimately put laxatives in Petey Williams' water.
Maybe they did. Maybe he did shit his pants. It's not at work, brother. So yeah, that takes us to the pay-per-view, in which Jay Lethal faces Petey Williams again, in a completely unadvertised, thrown out there for no reason match, just to do more Jackass spots.
But, like, again, it's not like it matters. Just do it all in them fucking... I guess Senshi's probably like, I don't want to do the poop match.
Yes, Senshi has standards. He'll do the blow-up doll match, but not the poop doll match. Petey comes out, he's drinking from a bottle of water. Which I guess, it's not completely, because he does occasionally come up with water to throw over his hair. So it's not a thing they did entirely contrived for this. I'll give them that. Lethal misses his entrance because he, Sabin, and Dot are busy backstage playing Spy Hunter Nowhere to Run.
Starring Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
It is a video game starring The Rock, which they tried to turn into a movie starring The Rock, which sat in developmental hell until it was never made.
Spy Hunter. He hunts spies? Or is he a spy who hunts?
I believe the Nowhere to Run part suggests he is a spy being hunted.
But then he'd be spy hunted.
That's true. It is the sequel to Spy Hunter, though, so it might be the classic, like, oh, you've gone rogue.
I don't know. I don't know anymore.
We did talk deeper about the Spy Hunter universe on the watch-along, if you'd like to hear more of that.
I don't know if it's a direct sequel, because, like, it is a nuke main character.
Because they got The Rock.
And there is a Spy Hunter 2.
Oh, so there's, like, Spy Hunter Nowhere to Run, and then Spy Hunter 2?
I think so.
So this is like a spin-off?
Not necessarily in that order.
Jerry Lynn comes up, and he's mad. Dut reveals, "It's fine, man, I have some laxatives." We got this covered. Sabin ignores Jerry, turns back to Spy Hunter. PD, we cut back to the ring. He eyes the bottle he's been drinking out of suspiciously after Sanjay's mention of laxatives. Jay Lethal finally comes out. He's putting his kick pads on as he's coming down the ramp. So the story of this match is PD Williams shitting his pants.
Yeah.
Literally, not figuratively. He doesn't shit his pants in the ring. It's not like shitting the bed kind of thing.
Should have committed to it and actually shit his pants in the ring and wear his white gear.
Yeah, the fact that he's wearing the black gear is a poor choice. They should have stained up the white gear or gotten like whatever the poop equivalent of a squib is.
Yeah.
That they set off in his gear.
A shid.
Yeah. So every time PD takes over and does something, he makes a little "I need to poop" face and squirms. Dut comes out, points at the laxatives, and then Lethal starts working over the bowels. It is perhaps the only match in wrestling history that has bowel work.
I do appreciate bowel work.
He is like punching PD's belly, and he's giving like little jabs in his lower stomach, and he's doing like atomic drops to try and get him to shit his pants. Lethal then starts making like PU faces because presumably PD has to some extent shit his pants.
Shit his pants.
PD can't commit to a destroyer because his bowels have been worked over too much, and Lethal rolls him up for the win. Then PD sprints to the back so he can take a shit. And TNA tastefully closes the segment, saying it gives an all-new meaning to Jackass number 2. Which was the best line in the whole thing.
It is. It kind of justifies the whole thing.
Yeah, it ties it all together. I don't know. Who cares? Because the X Division is kind of already dead.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like the division is thriving here in 2006 and this ruined it. It was already on its last legs, arguably. So much so that they were thinking of bringing Styles and Daniels back to save it. But, yeah, it's not what I want from my X Division. But I can't get mad at it all these years later. I don't know. Who cares?
Anyway, let's get to another annoying match.
Yep, so we had a recap of the antics and Senshi not approving of all this Jackass nonsense. And then we have an X Division title match, Senshi versus Chris Sabin. And listen, I watched this match back mostly while taking notes, and it was a little better than I gave it credit for in the watch along, because it starts really rough, where the crowd does not give a fuck about these guys at all, because Senshi is barely on TV, and Sabin is doing this weird ass.
And then it ends rough.
Yeah, and then it sends like Sabin is doing this weird ass heel turn that the crowd don't really know how to respond to. But like they do work pretty hard, and they do get the crowd somewhat with them toward the end. Until, of course, the finish fucks them over. So, like, any hard work they did to earn the crowd response is immediately undone by the finish. Like, there's a couple cool stuff. Like, there's a big hesitation dropkick. There's a cool Warrior's Way where Sabin is, like, draped in the middle of the ropes. So, essentially hits it while Sabin is in the ropes. That was pretty cool. But then we go to the finish. Dut and Lethal run out to booze. They're booed as they run out, which... Sabin's meant to be a heel at this point. Maybe not quite at this point, but this is meant to be a heel turn for Sabin. It's not for Lethal and Dot. They're still baby faces.
This makes no fucking sense.
No, it doesn't. But they didn't think that much about it. Lethal has a blow-up doll dressed like Chris Sabin.
Yoshihiko makes their debut in TNA.
So Senshi is up top as this happens. We're about to go for the Warrior's Way.
He still jumps.
Lethal replaces Sabin on the mat with the blow-up doll dressed like Sabin. And as you said, Senshi still leaves the ropes.
Okay, there's three things wrong with this. A, he still jumps, whatever, okay? But then he purposely doesn't double stomp it. And I'm like, just double stomp it.
It would be funnier if he just exploded it with a double stomp. But yeah, he kind of pulls out of the double stomp and just kind of lands. But then the blow-up doll ends up costing Sabin because Senshi throws the blow-up doll at Sabin. And then John woos both of them for the pin.
which is almost the best part. Crowd hates this, by the way.
The crowd do chant, "This is stupid," which is the first time this crowd has ever turned on something.
Well, no, they did the Jarrett stuff.
But, like, you can make an argument that that's the reaction Jarrett is meant to be getting. You can rationalize it. I think they mean it, the crowd. They're like, fuck you, we don't want to see you. But if you're Jarrett, you can be like, I'm getting heat, brother, you know?
Yeah.
This is a flat-out, fundamental, like, no. No. We don't want to see this. No. But you are right. Like, the crowd is, for the first time, they did kind of revolt against the show. Or Jarrett. But, like, yeah, it's really weird, like, because, like, the crowd is, like, fully editorializing. It's like, this is stupid. They're chanting, "This is stupid" at your show. How do you not learn from that? I don't understand that. I really don't. How you can, like, sit there as, like, if you're owner, if you're Dixie, and you see your audience chant, "This is stupid" at your television show, and you're not like, maybe this is wrong.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sure Russo spun a yarn. Or was like, that was the finish before I got here, bro. Even though we know it wasn't, because Sabin was meant to go over here, and that's one of the things they changed. So they can't even be like, that was the finish. Or maybe the blow-up doll was meant to lead to them losing. I don't know.
Who knows anymore?
That's the X Division. It's dead. It's dead.
It's dead. It's so over.
It has never been more over for the X Division. Because even in the like doldrums of the 2003 push, or like the post-Styles Lynn Loki era, they were at least trying. They were like, you know, giving them like matches and shit, and trying to be like, this is the new year of the X Division. This is just, it's over. It's dead. The X Division's done. That takes us over to the tag team division, which we'll end on a good note. So we'll do the Gauntlet Battle Royal shit first. So there's a few stuff that leads us here. There was meant to be a number one contenders match on the pay-per-view. There was meant to be the four-way that was dumped for the fire. It was meant to be the Naturals versus AMW versus Caesarian versus the James Gang. For some reason, on the August 17th Impact, that's now a four-way singles match between Chase Stevens, Chris Harris, Kazarian, and BG James. Why the partners were gotten rid of, who knows. But it's a four-way singles match for tag team number one contendership. Harris sends Storm to the back during their entrance. Like, the story is like none of the partners are actually at ringside, but Harris is the only one who like consciously sends his partner back. He's like, no, go, you have to leave. Storm comes out and tries to hit BG with a beer bottle. It fails, but Harris is mad that Storm even tried. As Chase Stevens throws Storm out of the ring, then he drops handcuffs. Chase hits Harris with the handcuffs, making the newly franchised Naturals number one contenders. Franchise comes out. He's very happy. AMW bicker. They argue. They shove each other as Gale looks to de-escalate, but Storm flips Harris the bird. The next week, Shane Douglas is in the ring. He's like, I told you so. I told you I would bring the Naturals back to the position of being number one contenders. A fan has a very nice Natural sign. I appreciate the fans. Some of them are really trying with these signs.
They do put the effort in. You gotta respect it.
He wants to know if the fans are ready for them to become tag champs, and the fans are as enthusiastic as you can get for the Naturals,
I guess.
It's like, he's really trying to pump them up, and they do give him something, but it is very much like he has to get that out of them. Alex Shelley and Johnny Devine defeat the newly franchised Naturals. They once again here show Conan and Moody Jack, and again Mike and Don are like, they're pushing our agenda. Devine and Shelley get a quick pin on Stevens for the win. Franchise comes out and he's really mad because his boys, he was really excited, they were all ready, and now they've dropped the tag team match to one of the lowest ranked teams in the division.
It's so funny that like they're like, yeah, we're gonna do it, and then they lose to like the jobbiest jobbers.
The only thing worse could be like Shark Boy and Norman.
Like the diamonds in the rough.
That's fair. There are multiple jobbery teams in this company at the moment.
Yeah.
Franchise comes back out. He's really mad. And he says, you don't deserve a title shot. You're not championship material. Your title shot is done. You're going right back to the bottom. Next segment, JB has AMW. JB is like, hey guys, the magic is kind of gone. Which he's not wrong in multiple regards.
Just in the company.
Yeah, the life has kind of seeped out over the summer a little bit, hasn't it? Which is the reason, again, like to the booking change. I'm like not fundamentally opposed to new bookers, but you're going the wrong way. You're going the wrong way.
You're backing it up and reversing it.
Instead of being like, we need to move this forward into something better, you're moving it back into worse. It's annoying. Harris stops Storm from drinking. Harris is like, we're as close as brothers, but like all brothers, we fight. If we want to end this thing, Storm, you can do it right now. I don't want any bullshit. I don't want any of the bickering. If we want it to be over, it can be over. Storm is like, I'm also frustrated. Harris tells Storm to tell him right now if they want to do this thing or not. Storm walks away.
And walks right back.
With a beer to share with his pal, Wildcat Chris Harris. So they're back on the same page, question mark?
Yeah.
September 7th Impact, AMW and Shazarian defeat the James Gang, and I wrote the James Gang again, but it's the Naturals? God damn it. My notes are clearly deteriorating. There's too many matches this month. It's the James Gang and Shark Boy and Norman, rather than the James Gang.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you get when you get me to do notes for 6 Impacts. They slowly deteriorate over time. They slowly fall apart. I don't know what's happening. I realize we probably need a new name for Shazarian. They are Maverick, Matt, and Kazarian.
Cat.
Sure. Cat. AMW and Cat defeat the James Gang, Shark Boy, and Norman Smiley. Nothing match. Shark Boy, Norman Smiley, and Shazarian are already in the ring, so like it doesn't even matter. The AMW, it's really weird. Like they did the thing where AMW and James Gang were the ones that got entrances, even though they're on opposing sides of the match, but their partners were already in the ring. So it's one of those weird mismatch kind of things. Brawl before the James Gang can get their catchphrases out, so we don't even tie for that, which is probably a blessing. They announce here there will be a triple chance tag team battle royal at No Surrender because Shane Douglas has to relinquish the Naturals tag team title match. Last call on Smiley, allowing Harris to get the win. Storm is kind of mad that Harris got the pin off of his super kick. Harris flipped off Storm and left, so they're not on the same page.
Yeah, they were on the same page for about 2 minutes.
Today talks to Douglas and the Naturals. Talks about all the things he's put the Naturals through, and then Shane Douglas is like, either at No Surrender you'll be victorious, or you'll lose, and I'll end this experiment on the spot. The Naturals are mad about this. They say they've done everything he's asked, and he retorts, except win.
That they did win.
But then they lost once.
But like, they still were number 1 contenders even though they lost. They could have won the titles. This is all your fault.
September 21st, JB has franchise in the Naturals. Once again reiterates if they don't win at the pay-per-view, he's done with them. Which does take us to the Triple Chance Tag Team Battle Royal at the pay-per-view, in which we have the Naturals defeating the James Gang, AMW, Paparazzi Productions, Shark Boy, Norman Smiley, Cat, Ron Killings and Lance Hoyt, who are now our team apparently, and the Diamonds in the Rough.
This is bullshit. Third chance battle royal my ass. This is the first chance for some people.
Yeah, it's the first time these two men have ever teamed. The rules is everybody's in the ring. Your team is eliminated when both members of your team are thrown out. So if the first person is thrown out, they stay at ringside until the second person is thrown out, and then they're eliminated. When we get down to the final 2 teams, it becomes a regular tag team match where then pinfall or submission crowns new number 1 contenders.
I like it.
You like the triple chance?
Yeah.
You prefer a battle royal where both men have to go out?
I do, but also I like battle royals that end in regular matches.
Yeah, it's a TNA special, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can't be bothered to go elimination by elimination here because it doesn't matter. So the headline points, Chase Stevens at one point looks to go for a lion salt, a springboard moonsault, but mid-spring, James Storm launches Chase Stevens from the spring on the top rope over the rail into the front row where he lands on like 3 or 4 people. It's a crazy bump to take for this kind of match.
I don't know. I think they're probably just like TV time is TV time at this point.
Take everything you can get.
Yeah.
Because the Naturals are, in theory, being pushed. So I guess you might as well try. Stevens sells an injury for the rest of the match. He's obviously eliminated, but Andy Douglas is still in the match. But Stevens is on the floor the entire time, selling like an ankle injury. We do have a 3 Live Crew callback spot with Ron and BG, but then Shelley just throws them both out. We get a little bit of 2LK family drama. They do the dance and then they start punching each other.
Alone.
It never dies. It will carry on forever. Shazarian and Paparazzi Production argue a bunch because Divine eliminates Kazarian despite being eliminated himself. This causes a bunch of referees to leave with them to separate them. Kip James eliminates Harris, but the remaining referee didn't see it because he was checking on Chase Stevens on the floor. Harris then comes back in, throws out Kip, so despite being eliminated, Kip is actually the one eliminated, so it comes down to everyone's favorite combination as the final 2 of the match. It's AMW and the Naturals.
One last time.
Inescapable. No matter what you do, we hover back to it. This was terrible, the actual match portion.
It went so long.
They beat the hell out of Andy Douglas for ages to seemingly set up like hot tag to Chase. Chase overcomes the odds despite the injury to win. And that's not really what they did. They beat the hell out of Andy Douglas for ages. The James Gang came back out to like shout at AMW, which allowed Andy to get the tag to Chase, and then Chase rolled up Harris for the win.
Yes.
Or Storm, sorry. Storm was the one that got pinned. And that's it. It wasn't like this big dramatic moment of the babyfaces fighting back against injury and overcoming the odds. It was a James Gang distraction and a bad finish. The franchise is happy, though. He's proud of them because they won.
Me too.
And that makes them number one contenders for the NWA World Tag Team title.
Again. We just gotta keep fucking doing this.
They gotta work their way there every time.
Can't wait for next Impact where Shane Douglas makes them not the number one contenders again.
He's like, you said something weird to me. Done. And we round the things out with the NWA World Tag Team title program. So the first Impact of the month opens. As we were talking about, it was meant to be Jeff Jarrett's championship celebration, but LAX break it by attacking Styles and Daniels. Daniels is busted open. Conan attacks him as he asks how it feels to taste his own blood. Hernandez press slams AJ from the floor to the ramp. Homicide squeezes the blood out of Daniels' head. Daniels kicks a chair into Hernandez's head, but fires up, but then Homicide chokes him with a hanger. Hernandez breaks a champagne bottle over AJ's head, and AJ's fucking bleeding from that.
It's so stupid that, like, in 6 weeks of this fucking show where, like, shit is so dumb half the time.
Yeah.
They're like, let's have some real wrestling.
Like, this is a fucking awesome angle, where, like, LAX
Yeah.
lost at the pay-per-view, so you need them to get their heat back, and they get it by just fucking decimating Styles and Daniels.
I wish they, like, almost just wouldn't do this. Like, I think I would just prefer if they, like, were just dumb the whole time.
Getting the little hint, the little tease of what this show could be is, like, more agonizing than not having it at all.
Yeah. I would rather just not have it.
Where AJ, where AJ and Daniels are gushing, like AJ's bleeding like hell, and LAX are like the coolest, most badass ass kickers there has ever been in this company, and it sets up a really hot match on TV, and it's like it's wrestling, man, it's fucking pro wrestling, and yeah, as you said, it is the exception on this show, very much not the rule.
I just, yeah, you know.
I do know, I really do. I've watched this company for a long time. JB is backstage later in the show with a bloody, incapacitated AJ and a fired up Daniels. Like, they just have they start this segment on a shot of AJ just sitting there doing his 1,000-yard stare, bleeding everywhere, before they like pan up to Daniels to do his promo. It's awesome. Daniels says they had their shot at Styles and Daniels, and Styles and Daniels beat LAX. Daniels is like, if you wanted a rematch, you could have had one, but they won't stop until LAX are dead. He challenges LAX to another match, and Conan gets on the mic in the building and says, we accept what we wanted under our rules. We want it to be a border brawl.
Cool.
Which takes us to the main event of the next week's Impact on August 24th, as AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels lose the NWA World Tag Team titles to the Latin American Exchange in a border brawl.
Weird choice, but okay.
To do it on TV?
Yeah.
I guess the idea, I don't know what the idea was.
The idea is maybe that we're gonna put Styles and Daniels back in the X Division, I guess.
Yeah, so like you have them win their specialty match, I guess, to then set up Styles and Daniels challenging them in their specialty match. That's like the story of this. And I guess because LAX were meant to win that and just move on, it makes it a little weirder that Styles and Daniels just end up winning the tag titles back again at the pay-per-view. But I suppose as setting up a blow-off in Ultimate X, it makes sense in the story they were initially telling before the creative changed. Styles and Daniels come dressed as they are. They jumpstart the match. Daniels dives over the broadcast table onto Hernandez. Daniels looks to dive off a chair, but Hernandez just catches him and drops him head first on the chair, drawing blood again.
This is a blood feud.
It is. It's funny to see, like, the TNA is not a bloody product. At least at this period in time.
moment.
Like, there is periods in 2003 where there is endless blood. But, like, Spike era TNA is not a particularly bloody company.
Yeah.
So to get, like, both this and the Rhino angle on TV is, like, all of a sudden a real injection of blood where there hasn't been previously.
Yeah.
Styles takes a neck snap on the rope and then crashes off the apron with a thud. And that AJ way, they're like, what are you doing, man? Hernandez gets a table. AJ's bleeding again as Homicide throws a chair at him. AJ just kind of recklessly hurls himself at Hernandez over the top, which is awesome. Daniel sets up Angel's Wings off the top, but Conan slapjacks him, which is a little awkward because Conan was standing on the apron a little too long, setting it before he interfered. It kind of telegraphed it. It wasn't like seamless, but it was fine. Homicide Gringo cutters Daniels off the top through a table to win the belts. LAX are your new TNA World Tag Team Champions.
They won the border brawl.
They are the champions of the border.
Hell yeah.
I respect my border
Then we go to next week, August 31st, where they cut a big baby face promo.
They sure do. So they kick off Impact. They come to the ring after winning the World Tag Team titles. They dedicate the titles to the more than 50 million Latinos legally or illegally in America, to their mothers that had to suffer racial abuse in America, and to those that came before them like Pedro Morales, Mil Mascares, Carlos Caron, Tito Santana, all the Guerreros, including Eddie, who of course gets the biggest pop. But Conan says he doesn't need their applause because he hates gringos.
Awesome.
I liked him setting that up, like, because he probably knew mentioning Eddie would get a pop, because obviously this is after Eddie had passed and everything.
Yeah.
So he's just like, to turn that back in the crowd, it's like, I don't need the applause of you white people. Styles and Daniels appear on the screen, said they made the mistake of playing by LAX's rules, but they've exercised the rematch clause, but this time it'll be in their kind of match. For the first time, for the World Tag Team titles, it'll be Ultimate X.
Fun. Good. I like it.
Is this the promo where Conan calls America a white supremacist nation, or is that another one?
I thought it was the other one.
There's a few where he does like full like America sucks, but yeah, there's one of them where it's like the defining feature of American culture, white supremacy.
Yeah, I think that was the hanging one.
Oh yeah, that's later. We'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, lots of Conan wrestling fans are racist promos this month, and I'm a big fan of him.
And it's like, it's so scary accurate.
Yeah, he's dead right.
For like 2024, looking at this, like,
Yeah, it's one of those things where like this was a big political hot button issue. Like the border and immigration was the big issue heading into what would be like the 2008 presidential election with Obama versus McCain. And yeah, nothing has changed. If anything, it's gotten worse.
Much worse.
September 7th Impact, we opened with a squash as LAX beat Kirby Mac and TJ Mac.
The Max. Return to the Max.
This, some would argue, is the Mac militant.
And they die. They die.
They get massacred. So the Ultimate X is set up above the ring. The ring is sponsored by Jackass #2. So it's not just for the X Division stuff. It's set up for the ring for the entire back half of this month. Gringo Killer, which Tenay calls the Cop Killer.
Fucking awesome.
Which I think he did by accident, but it's a taped show, so
Yeah.
if it was, it should have been taken out.
It sounded like he did it by accident and then he tried to like scramble to cover for it. But like, you're right, just edit it.
Yeah, you could have taken it out, but yeah, it sounds like he was like, which it tells you he watches his Ring of Honor tapes, by the way, that he's like, it's the Cop Killer, which they now call the Border, or the Gringo Killer. But it is the thing I've been asking for, which is like, Border Toss, Gringo Killer, back to back. It's so cool.
Border tossing them over the other guy is the best.
And he went like full sandwich border toss on this as well.
I feel like doing an LAX squash in a lot of ways is like when you go back and you watch like a 90s Steiner squash and you're like, these boys, you just feel bad for them.
Yeah. Conan grabs the mic after the match. He shows the poster for No Surrender, which he points out has Styles and Daniels and AMW on it. And he's like, this means LAX, they didn't even expect us to be here. They didn't put us on the poster. They were holding us down. But we took it by force. Styles will be going back to dark matches, and Daniels should join the Blue Man Group in Las Vegas.
Hey, Blue Man Group's still running.
I don't know why he says Las Vegas in particular, given, famously, the Impact Zone is right next to where the Blue Man Group perform in Universal Studios.
Maybe because he's a heel.
He has to send him all the way to Vegas. I guess Daniels is from the West Coast. It makes sense. It would be a longer travel for him to be in the Orlando Blue Man Group.
Of course.
The Ultimate structure is above the ring for this. Styles and Daniels clear them off, and then Daniels hangs the title from Ultimate X, and the crowd chant, "You can't get it" at LAX. This is the show where we did have the Ultimate X feature about the history of Ultimate X, set to an instrumental version of Linkin Park's What I've Done.
What I've done. Except without that bit.
Yeah, no lyrics. I wonder is like I don't know how that happens. You know?
It has to be either cheaper or like Spike randomly had like the rights to it or some shit.
Or is it like a weird thing where Linkin Park actually sampled like an instrumental for that song, so you can use the instrumental of the song, but obviously you can't use the song? Because let it be noted, this is before the first Transformers movie came out, so I think this meme should come from TNA.
What I've done samples Get Me Back on Time Engine number 9.
So maybe that is just a library track that TNA are like, fuck yeah, we can use that?
I want to listen to it. Let me listen to it. No.
Nothing like the same?
No.
Ah, well, TNA it was probably like a Dale Oliver special. It's like, that song rocks, let's rip it off. September 14th Impact, we had a package on Styles and Daniels versus LAX, and then an opening contest, which is AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels versus Cat. They show some highlights from the Styles, Bentley, Kazarian Ultimate X number 4. So that's a nice thing to tie together. And they're wrestling to the two of the original men in Ultimate X. You know, Kazarian and Bentley were two of the three with Saban. So that, which it didn't actually mention, I don't think. But I think it was I think that was the intent behind booking this. Heat on Daniels, hot tag to Styles, high-low connects on Bentley. This is one of the best TV matches of the month, and I think I gave it like 2 3/4. But it was like one of the very few TV matches this month that felt like it had just a normal TV match structure to it.
Yeah.
Where they actually got 6 minutes, which means they could just do Heat come back, hit a few spots, win with the BME Frog Splash on Kaz. And like that, just getting like normal TV match structure and length felt like it stood out above everything else. Which tells you where we are on this show.
Yeah.
Later in the show, JB has LAX. Some ladies are dancing and shaking their booties. Next week, they start celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. And now it's personal with Styles and Daniels. And they promise violence like we've never seen before. Go Home Show, feature on Styles and Daniels versus LAX. Which takes us to the main event Go Home segment. Which I did appreciate that they got the final segment on the Go Home Show. Which doesn't usually happen for the tag division.
Well, again, like if there was like talk about making them the main event, you know.
It does make sense. Yeah, it does add up. And I think Kurt is the thing that changed that.
Also, it's a big set piece, you know.
So LAX are in the ring with a mariachi band to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month.
What heels?
How dare they celebrate their culture on my show, Liam Jones? There are piñatas that look just like the Fortnite piñatas.
Racist? Is it okay?
Is that where they got it from?
Yeah, I think so.
So they have Uncle Sam hanging in the middle of the ring.
It's fucking cool. I want that in my bedroom.
The visual of like the symbol of America hanging from the ring as they celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month is so sick.
It's so sick. It's so funny that there's probably people out there that are actually mad about it.
Yeah, because they do stuff later in the year where they like go like even further, where they're like going to burn an American flag on TV.
That's awesome. Like, why can't like they just let that like shit go? You know, just be like, it's for art.
And also, it's the argument always made against them, which they'll never understand because they're arguing in bad faith anyway. But like, the ultimate sign of the symbol is the ability to destroy the symbol.
Damn bars.
So yeah, Uncle Sam is hanging. LAX promised they're going to bring a level of violence so bad that Ultimate X will be rechristened the Ultimate LAX match.
Good bit.
Conan points out the white supremacy of America, but Latinos are taking over. This is where TNA gives out about Conan and his personal political agenda. It's like, no, he's dead right, Mike.
And also, yeah, it is a personal political agenda based on reality.
These are an oppressed people.
We're so woke. Look at us go.
Discriminated against. Conan starts whipping the hanging Uncle Sam over the lies and exploitation of America.
It's fucking insane. How did this get on television on Spike TV?
Could you imagine the complaints if a wrestling company did this now?
They would be over.
Remember when Hangman and Cole accidentally like invoked Jesus Christ on like Easter?
Yeah, because they had like the crown.
The crown of barbed wire, and like people made a deal about that. Whereas here it's like they are hanging and whipping a symbol of America while talking about how America is a white supremacist nation.
We should have posted that clip when the election happened. Would have done #numbers.
Styles and Daniels eventually run out and crash the party. Hernandez press slams Daniels to the floor, then powerbombs AJ. They attach AJ to the harness and then hang him. They hang him from Ultimate X and whip him with a kendo stick and beat their asses as LAX stands tall. And that's our go-home segment. We open the pay-per-view with a feature, like with the classic TNA cold open, where the theme is like presidents promising things set to Conan calling America a bunch of bullshit.
How do they keep doing this?
So there's specifically a part where Conan talks about the great American lie, which is directly juxtaposed with an actual George Bush clip saying combat operations in Iraq were over.
It's insane. It's insane. Like, no wrestling company has done shit like this, you know? And they probably didn't even know what they were doing, you know?
Yeah, like the culture war wasn't really a thing at that point.
Yeah. I also need to mention that like the theme for like No Surrender was Fighter by Candle Fuse. Which is a fucking banger of a song.
Great song. We heard it, if you remember, for the 4 years of TNA history package at Slammiversary as well. It was played there too. Great song. It's been burned in my brain for 18 years.
It's a great song.
It's on Spotify if you want to go listen to it. So yeah, the broad theme of this package was like political figures encouraging peace, and then Conan being like, we're gonna do a murder.
That's so fucking cool.
We had the segment with LAX supposedly being accused of robbing a car by Air
Yeah. Again, proving their point.
Don West had AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels in an earlier Today segment where they were in the empty arena below the Ultimate X. They talked about how LAX can use any gang tactics they want, but Ultimate X is their world. Daniels accuses Conan of spewing racist propaganda.
Yeah, anti-white propaganda.
Daniels said if Eddie Guerrero stood here today between Conan and something Conan wanted, Conan would cut his throat too, which felt a little raw for a dude who died last year.
But I guess, like, if Conan's cool with it.
He pointed out that Conan doesn't care about Latinos, he cares about himself. Which should it be what the angle is?
Yeah. Now that's the only way you can have, like, the white guys be baby faces. Is to be like, you're spewing all this because, like, to push your own success and nothing more.
The way you phrase that, I think, is a really important distinction between, like, how Mike Tenay phrases it versus how it should be phrased. Because Mike Tenay talks about how they're pushing their political agenda, which is, yes, treat Latinos equally. That's not crazy, Mike.
What a crazy agenda.
As opposed to the way you phrased it, where he is pushing their success, which I think is a really important thing that they kind of forget to frame it as.
Well, because they don't think about it that deeply.
And they also don't feel the need to rationalize it because they're foreigners.
Because, Latino bad.
They don't need to, like, think about how does this not make them baby faces, because in 2006, it doesn't.
Yeah, because, like, for us in 2024, yeah, of course we're viewing it in this, like, way. But, like no one was questioning it. Well, a very few people were probably questioning it, you know what I mean? Like I guess the biggest problem with it, like, not the biggest problem with it, but the thing that, like, makes it even more apparent is, like, just how cool LAX are while they're doing it. It's like, even if, like, some people are like, oh yeah, whatever, blah, 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 they're doing this, doing that, like, they are objectively cooler too the entire time, which doesn't help.
Yep. We have a feature on Styles and Daniels versus LAX, once again set to an instrumental version of Linkin Park's What I've Done. And then, in Ultimate X, AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels defeat LAX to regain the NWA World Tag Team titles.
Why? Why are we fucking jumping these belts back and forth?
To get to another match next month.
Okay, I'll take it.
Yeah, that's okay. Like, as rationales go, you could come up with another way to have Styles and Daniels get a rematch, but fair enough, you know?
God, the LAX Team 3D feud's gonna suck ass.
Yeah, they have a real stinker.
Electric Cage?
Yep.
Is that one? Yeah.
So, Homicide slingshot Styles into Hernandez belly to belly. Looks awesome. Homicide hits a tope con hilo where he goes all the way over the rail into the crowd. It looks awesome. AJ Styles immediately follows that with a Fosbury flop. LAX try to use the ladder, but Styles and Daniels stop them. Crotch Hernandez on the ladder and get rid of it.
That's illegal.
It's the one rule. I'm so mad that, like, the Hardys once won Ultimate X with a ladder. It's like, you're babyface. It's what LAX are cheating here. Like, that's the heat that they're using a ladder. The Hardys were babyfaces. Hernandez cracker jacks Daniels off the top. Also looks awesome. Homicide cutter Styles off the cables. Also looks awesome. Styles does, like, the best. Like, Styles' 1,000 yard stare is, like, best of all time.
Yeah.
No one's ever done it better. When he takes a big move and just has that glassy-eyed look into the distance, never been anybody better.
Yeah.
Hernandez goes to climb, but then Styles, like, teeters him into a splash on Homicide, so that's your one kind of spot of the big man trying to climb Ultimate X. Conan sets up a table on the floor. Daniels hits a BME, but instead of AJ doing the frog splash like they usually do, he hits a spiral tap instead.
And it's maybe the best spiral tap they've ever done.
He comes down with such an oomph onto Hernandez's gut.
It's wild.
AJ hits a Styles Clash on Homicide, off the apron, through a table.
This is a stupid fucking finish. I'm like, insane.
So Daniels is trying to climb Ultimate X, but Conan is, like, guarding the center of the ring with a kendo stick. So if Daniels approached, Conan would hit him with a kendo stick. So instead, Daniels climbs the truss all the way to the top, stands on the truss, and leaps from the truss straight to the center of Ultimate X, over Conan in the ring so he can't get to him. Conan does at one point try to throw the kendo stick at him while he's taking the belt down, which I did appreciate. So he leaps from the truss to the center, pulls the belt down. Styles and Daniels win Ultimate X. They're tag team champions once again. Celebrate in the crowd. Crowd go crazy. The crowd start bowing to them at one point. And yeah, awesome finish. Awesome visual. The leap of faith from that truss to the center of Ultimate X. I really hope they tested whether or not that would actually hold.
I hope they didn't. I hope they just went for it.
Yeah, because like we were talking on the watch along that they have like a center cable that they don't normally have in Ultimate X. I think expressly to like add extra enforcement. Like they have a cable coming from the top of the building to the top of Ultimate X to add, I think, a little bit of extra support there to take the weight off a man jumping full force from a distance into the middle and hoping the thing doesn't collapse. Awesome finish, awesome match, awesome wrestlers, awesome tag teams. I'm happy to do it again for another month.
Yeah, I'll take it again. And also if we get more insane LAX segments.
Yeah, awesome Conan racism promos and just beating the shit out of the white boys.
Can't wait for Russo to ruin this somehow.
I'm sure he will. I don't remember what the build is to Bound for Glory, so that'll be fresh in my mind. I don't remember what they do. That is the month. That is September 2006. We will be back with our next episode on Bound for Glory 2006 and Kurt Angle's first month in his actual debut. So that should be fun in our next episode. You can look forward to that. Our next Patreon shows will be covering Lucha Underground and Rain Takers. So those will be coming in the next couple of weeks to you before we get to Bound for Glory. You can go buy our merch. Go to the merch store, link in our bios, descriptions. If you're a patron, you get 10% off. Where with the code that's in our pin post on Patreon as well, which you can save more money if you subscribe than if you subscribe to $1 tier. Just saying. Or just subscribe to Patreon in general if you'd like more content. That's there. Patreon.com/kiddingme, TNAchat.com. You can follow us on Twitter at TNA HistoryPod. You can follow me on Twitter at Garrett Kidney, also on Blue Sky. You can follow Liam on Twitter at The Gleet Muda or on Blue Sky at Dixie Carter. You can subscribe to us on YouTube at You've Got to Be Kidding Me or on TikTok at TNA History. Thanks for listening, and bye-bye.
Do damn thing, wow.